Good evening, everybody. My name is Jeff Thoman. I'm the Fair Rent Commission here, Chairman. Call to order the Fair Rent Commission meeting for Monday, January 8th, 2024. Want to begin by review and approval of the minutes. We have minutes from July 24th, 2023, copies of which have been circulated to our commissioners. Present at the meeting, I want to just remind everybody, those that were not present cannot vote on the approval of the minutes. So those that were present were myself, Marty Seglich, Lori Bosky, Geraldine Yo, sorry. So with that, to entertain a motion with regard to the July 24th Rocky Hill Fair Rent Commission minutes.
I submit a motion for approval of the July 24th, 2023 meeting.
Second?
I second.
Okay. We got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. That's approved. We have meeting minutes from the December 11th, 2023 meeting. Those in attendance were myself, Marty Seglich, and Geraldine Yo. All right. So with that, can we get a motion?
Okay,
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of December 11th of 2023.
Okay. Second?
second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Motion to approve the minutes passes. Okay. Going to our new business. We have 4 claims on for tonight. One, some information was brought to my attention. And I think I've talked to the claimants and the parties involved about perhaps switching the order of case 2023-11 to take that first. If we can get a motion to approve the revised agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve and move our Article 3D to the top.
Okay. Second?
I second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's approved. So we're going to hear the first case tonight will be case number 2023-11, Alyssa Kronk, 100 Cold Springs Road, apartment A213.
Mr. Chair, while she's coming up, I would suggest that you just put on the record that when you mentioned discussing with them, you were just talking about scheduling and not the substance of the appeals. You mentioned a moment ago you discussed.
Yes, yeah, it was more, just to clarify for the record, the discussion was relating specifically to the procedure in which to take that case first over the other claims in light of some personal circumstances with the claimant. It wasn't talking about the substance of the claims. Be that as it may, I just wanted to go over some quick ground rules with regard to Fair Rent Commission. I'm going to read off, just as I've done it with other meetings, the scope of this commission's charge, and in that case, determination of an excessive rent. In determining whether a rental charge or proposed increase in a rental charge is so excessive, it's with due regard to all circumstances such as to be harsh and unconscionable. The Commission shall consider such of the following circumstances as are applicable to the type of accommodation. The first being whether the rents for comparable units, the amount and frequency of rent increases, sanitary conditions, number of bathtubs and showers, toilets and sinks, the services, furniture and furnishings, bedroom size and number, repairs necessary to make the accommodations livable, amount of taxes and overhead expenses, including debt service, compliance with state and local health and safety laws and regulations, renters' income and housing availability, utility availability, tenant damage to the premises other than ordinary wear and tear, and the degree to which income from the rent increase will be reinvested in the property improvements. So with that being said, that's what our commission is charged to do here. We are not we're not a housing court determining breach of contract or other issues relating to the tenancy, nor are we a rent control commission. So with that said, we do have a procedure that some of you are familiar with, some of you are aware of from watching other hearings in the past. We're going, be advised that this commission has reviewed all the materials here. And we have reviewed all of your submissions. They are familiar with the facts of each of your claim. They may have questions of you, but there's going to be a little bit of a procedure that we follow here, such that we may ask you to briefly summarize your claim. Particularly, we'd want to know from each claimant what they are seeking. They'll help us focus in on what you're looking for and make that determination. There may be some questions from our council, from the commissioners up here. There may not be any questions, but don't take the fact that we may not ask any questions as any judgment on your claim merit. What I do want to convey to you that after you're done presenting your case, the other side will have an opportunity through individually, or in this case through counsel, to ask you questions. What we do in this case, although it may seem a little bit awkward, we're going to have those questions posed to the commission, and the commission will then relay that to you and ask you of those questions, and sometimes put a little bit finer detail on it to make sure that the question is understood and it's something that you can answer. Then after you're done, the claimant that is, the landlord in this case and through their counsel will have an opportunity to present their case. We may be asking them questions, we may not be asking them questions. Again, we reviewed the materials that have been submitted to us both by you as well as counsel for the landlord. After they present their case, you will have an opportunity to be called back up here and, if you will, cross-examine. It's more of if you have questions regarding the presentation of their case. It's not a time to necessarily rehash or talk over your claims. It's mostly directed towards what evidence they produced in defense of their case. After that, and again, that's going to be a questions you'll pose to the commission. The commission will then in turn make that ask of the landlord and its counsel. There may be witnesses, and you'll have an opportunity to do that. Both sides have an opportunity to present witnesses, and the same rules would apply. After that's done, we're going to conclude the evidentiary portion of the hearing, and then we're going to have an open discussion amongst counsels. No other evidence will be presented at that point. The commission will deliberate openly with regard to the merits of both sides, the evidence presented by both sides, and from there we'll make our determination. So with that being said, we have if you want to swear in, is this Ms. Cronk?
Yes.
Did I say it correctly?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to ask.
Would you raise your right hand?
Yes.
Do you swear the information you provide this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Okay, Ms. Cronk, you've heard my instructions and sort of background with regard to this claim. I understand, you've since moved out of the residence?
Yes.
Okay. And if you could just explain a little bit about what your claim is and what you're seeking from this commission.
All right. So we moved into concierge. Our lease date started on November 4th of 2023. We have since then moved out as of October 16th, 2023. The reason why I'm here today for a claim with the Fair Rent Commission is for the unstable, unhealthy living conditions of our unit, which is Building 100, Unit A213. We had problems day one. Our maintenance tickets date back to early January, but the work that has been done in that unit has been dating back to before we even moved in, pertaining to specifically the peeling paint and mold in the bathroom. We did live in a one-bedroom, one-bathroom, so that was the only shower that we had in our unit available to us. Basically, what we're asking for here today is a retro for bathroom conditions, resulting in approximately $500 per month for the duration of the residence, which is November 4th of 2023 through October 16th of 2023. Due to having to commute outside of home, about 45 minutes to the nearest family in order to take showers, as well as I believe it was 12 differing days dating mid-February as early as early November without hot water or water at all in Building 100.
Okay.
Can I ask a question on the date?
Absolutely.
It's,
Go ahead.
you said November, it's November of 2022
Yes.
to, okay, you were saying 23, November of 22 to October of 23.
Yes, November 4th of 2022 to October 16th of 2023. My
Thank you.
apologies.
That's okay.
And you moved out a few weeks before when your lease was up?
Yes. We tried to give written notice to the leasing office through a signed and certified letter, letting them know we were moving out due to other legal reasons that are not pertaining to this council, but are being brought otherwise. And they refused to accept the letter multiple times. They refused to give us a move-out prorate, so we did move out of the unit prior to our lease end date, but that is being held through a different legal aspect.
Okay. And so you do understand, it sounds like you're alluding to it, I won't get into any too details, but I noticed that part of your claim, not what you say, but part of your written claim had to do with a security deposit, as well as overdue charges and the like. That's not part of your claim here tonight.
No, that is not. That is being sought through a separate court system.
So just to recap, you're looking for a pro rata reduction of a monthly rent of $500 a month for the duration of your lease.
Yes.
Okay, which is approximately 12 months.
Yes.
Okay, so what you would essentially be asking for is about $6,000.
Yes.
And in addition to that, you said, would that have covered the 12 days? You said you were either without hot water or any water at all?
Yes.
Okay, so the $500 is included in that?
Yes.
The issues that you had with the bathroom, the peeling paint, was that something that you had reported, or that manifested itself almost immediately when you moved into the apartment?
Day two, our
two.
shower started peeling. First shower in the new apartment, and your paint starts pooling at your feet. Down to the point where the walls, they had come out multiple times to paint over the walls, and the walls just continued to peel and grow mold throughout the time of our residence there.
Okay, and are these complaints that you've used the portal, I guess it is, the concierge, where I understand has a portal for making such complaints, or is this something that you did over the phone?
I did it through the portal as well as through the leasing office when we first moved in, because we had been new tenants and it happened day two. Portal was consistent. I had email receipts that are in the packet dating back to their response on the final ticket was to speak to property management or leasing office, which we then did, and they basically told us that there was nothing they could do about the peeling paint, and we just kind of had to deal with it while we were there.
And is your testimony that you were not able to use the shower at all in your unit for the entire duration?
You were able to use it to a point, but you were having peeling, molding paint at your feet and coming off the shower walls while you were taking a shower. It would clog the drain, the paint would peel at your feet, you were living with mold. There was also no ventilation in the bathroom as well, even though there was a fan, but the fan did not work.
And you said there was attempts by maintenance to come in there and repaint the shower, correct?
Yes, there were 3.
3 separate instances?
Yes,
Okay, and the paint continued to peel off.
yes.
Did you inform, I imagine you informed concierge about this, and what was their
Immediately.
response?
Their response was they had to talk to the higher ups in California and to reach out to tenant relations, which we did to no avail. We called Offsite. Offsite had nothing that they could do for us. And the corporate office was not willing to do anything for our unit.
Did concierge have any explanation as to why the paint continued to peel?
The only statement that I had gotten for why the paint continued to peel was that it was not properly applied. But that was the extent of any explanation that we got. We just continued to have peeling paint off of our walls and our bathtub the entire time we were living there.
Okay. The photos that you submitted, there were two sets. These are of the area within your bathroom?
Yes. There should be shower rails, as well as, I know I had sent Kelly videos of the paint that had accumulated in the shower as well.
Oh, there's gonna be.
We take a brief recess. Good.
That says that
Go back on the record. Ms. Cronk, do you want to rely on the video that you spoke of earlier in support of your claim?
I believe it would help, yes, because it is proof of the peeling paint, because I took videos of how the paint chips are floating in the water, as well as the walls and faucets.
Okay, and I understand that you submitted that video, so what we're doing right now is we're trying to see if we can,
We're forwarding it so that they can.
we're going to try to play it so that
Yep.
you have the ability to, people in the room, if you want to rely on it as evidence, it has to be presented to the commission and to the other side. So we're going to take a look at that now. We're just trying to see if we can have that ability to do that.
All right,
So
yeah.
we'll go back off the record for, until I get the signal that we're ready to proceed.
All right.
Quickly, as a quick objection, we have not received a copy of the video ahead of time, so just noting that for the record.
Okay.
We have not received this video ahead of time.
Just to be clear also, I understand and may have been an oversight, but the commission hasn't seen the video either. So we'll all be watching it at the same time. Stay off the record, actually, I'm sorry.
You're very welcome.
Turn it off. We'll go back on the record. Just be a moment.
Yes, during the recess, spoke with both the complainant and representative of the respondent. And one suggestion I had to the respondent, after conferring with you, Mr. Chair, is that since no one has seen this video, if they're able to play it, we'll have it'll be played. It might be duplicative information to what's already in the package, and there might not be reason for an objection. If there is, it would really should be in the form of a request for an extension of time so that they have an opportunity to respond to it rather than an objection that it come in. And does that fairly represent our agreement, essentially?
It does, yes.
Excellent.
Okay, so are we in a position that we can then go forward and play it?
She's putting it on a USB because it won't go, it's too big of a file to go through the email, but she is currently transferring it to a USB, Kelly downstairs.
Okay.
And then they'll be able to play it.
Okay. In the meantime, before we see the video, does any of the other commissioners have any questions of the claimant?
Actually, I do.
I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice.
It's okay.
It's one of those days. I checked the file very carefully, and you had mentioned mold, okay? I don't see any information here on which proper agents, not an agency, but proper business actually came in and attested that they found mold.
Yes, so we had called the health department. I had talked to Kelly about what to do. She said to call the health department. The health department had told us that they were no longer doing mold tests because there is mold everywhere, was how our phone conversation went. And by the time it got to the point where we would have had concierge come out, we were already moving out.
Okay, all right.
My question is just, how did you come up with the $500 a month request? What was that based on?
It was based on just previous cases that have happened in our building. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Building 100 and the black mold that is everywhere, including the walls and the bathrooms and all the units at concierge, in Building 100 at least.
Okay. Thank you.
Try to move. I want to see if I can try to move this along. I don't know where we are with.
I could suggest you could take it out of order with the video if it's, if it's close.
Are we ready
Otherwise-
with the video? Okay,
Okay.
I guess we are ready with the video.
Okay.
Imagine when the screen comes down, this will pop up on our monitors as well, hopefully.
That's the plan.
So in anticipation, there's going to screen that's going to drop down in front of you. We're going to be on the other side of it, but we'll have monitors to view it as well. So if we'll play, it sounds like there's a couple of videos,
Yes.
2 videos. Okay, and if you want to take us through the videos, like, as each being played, we'll go from there.
As it's being played, we'll kind of go from there. Basically, the videos were taken either after a shower had taken place or just running the water to, say, just wash a dog or something like that, and the paint would just come off. So with the mold that would come out of the rails and the paint that would come off, I took videos to submit to the Fair Rent Commission.
Okay, it looks like we're about to play the first video.
Having water in this place. That's why I paid $1,700 for it to have water.
The second one is the shower? So what you're seeing here is just the clumps of mold that would come out of paint chips as well as the railings and from behind the like the hardware that was in the bath. And you could see the paint chipping along the drain plug because we had no working plug in order to stop the drain. We had to put in a plug ourselves. And there you saw just the peeling paint on the bottom of the bathtub.
Do you have any pictures or video of where the location where the paint had dropped from, where those chips were from? I know either in photos or videos.
I have photos, yes.
Okay. And then the photos that are in the packet that you submitted, those photos are of the areas where the paint chips came from?
Yes. That's where the caulk met, and the caulk as well as the paint on the tiles itself would peel off, and they would just continue to peel off. And they would also hold water that would turn brown and smell, and mold would grow behind the paint.
Okay. And during this time, where would you said you had to use a shower in certain, was that throughout you had to use somebody else's shower?
Yes, we would travel 45 minutes to a family member's house. That was the closest resident, and that's where we would take our showers and, say, bathe our dog because she's only 7 inches tall, and she would be covered in paint chips if we tried to bathe her in the bathtub at our apartment.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Okay. Is there anything, no? Okay. At this point, sorry, Joe.
No question.
No questions. Okay. At this point, we're going to turn over to concierge counsel to see if they have any questions and cross. And again, the procedure, what I would ask counsel is going to be, he'll have access to the mic. You could stay right there. He'll ask questions, and I'll just give a pause beforehand because the question's really posed to us to relay to you.
All right.
Ryan Hoyler from Robinson & Cole for Century Hills. First, a couple preliminary matters. We did submit 2 recusal request letters for both the chairman and Commissioner Bosky. I believe we've discussed the chairman's letter last time. I'm kind of fine with where you guys stand on that. With regards to Commissioner Bosky, we absolutely do request that she can recuse herself tonight. In addition to the communications we've provided as part of the letter, including communications with one ex parte communications on social media with one of the claimants here tonight. Her ex parte communications show clear bias and prejudgment, and her statements at the town council meeting on February 21st, 2002, or 23, I apologize, also show clear judgment and bias against Century Hills, and we ask that Commissioner Bosky recuse herself tonight.
Before addressing that, I know council's going to want to say something, stay on the record, but just to clarify, with regard to the recusal to myself,
Yes.
You said you're fine with that?
We understand. I don't think the position has changed since the December 11th hearing of, I assume that the commission and the chairman's position has not changed since the December 11th hearing. Commissioner Bosky was not at the December 11th hearing, so we didn't raise it then. But provided that position has not changed, we don't have any further anything to add to what we've submitted.
Okay, so it's not that you're withdrawing the
No,
recusal?
no. We're not withdrawing the recusal request, no.
Okay.
First of all, the commission takes no position with respect to the qualifications of any individual members of the commission. It's each of your own responsibility. You essentially mentioned this at other hearings, but you have to make your own judgment if you had a personal or financial interest in a matter. If, just by way of example, if, the person who was the claimant was your best friend or your, brother or sister, obviously you'd have a personal relationship with that person. You should recuse yourself. If based on, the next thing is can you provide and give the appearance of the public that you can provide a fair and unbiased evaluation of this matter? In other words, have you prejudged it, or would it appear to the public that you've prejudged the matter? You each have to make your own decision. If you proceed, that's without comment. That's should be understood by the all parties that you've made a decision that you're qualified to sit. You're certainly, when you've been specifically called out, in this case, you do have the prerogative, if you decide to sit, to explain why you believe that you're qualified to proceed. The last thing is there's a reference to ex parte information. If you received not anything substantive, any substantive information related to this matter outside the context of this hearing, you should present it, and so that everyone is afforded an opportunity. And if it is something new, just as we indicated earlier about the video, with the policy of the commission to try to give all parties advanced opportunity to review material, they could ask for an extension of time to review it. So that's basically an overview of your obligations. The commission cannot require any member to recuse himself or herself. It's just a judgment you each have to make. So with that, there's two pending requests. I don't know if you, Mr. Chair, or Ms. Bowski want to react to it.
One point of clarification with respect to, wasn't brought to me, but I just wanted to clarify, to the extent that anybody's received any communications regarding any individual party to this hearing today, or that it's only if it's substantive information with regards to their claim, in which case you would bring it forward so that everyone can hear it, it can be heard. But you're talking about substantive information regarding that individual's claim or party's defense.
Right, something that's substantive that you plan to rely on.
Okay. With regard to myself, I mean, this is said before, I view each and every claim individually. I view each and every party as a new party in each case. So whether they're a respondent or a claimant, I judge everything on the merits. I don't believe that anything I've done indicates a bias one way or the other. I've, in fact, involving some of the parties with concierge, I've both been part of decisions that have ruled for and against them. And tonight, I will keep an open mind, and as I've done before, and I will continue to do so with regard to the claim. So therefore, I'm going to decline the request to recuse myself and go forward with hearing claims impartially.
If I could add just one more thing before I go on to the other commissioner, if she has anything she wants to add. The other thing I point out in the record of earlier matters, and this is really only respect to the request for the chair to recuse himself, is there's a suggestion that he's being, that the way in which he's been asking questions of applicants suggests that he's not an unbiased arbiter, basically, is being too involved in the procedure. This is a fact-finding body. This is not, you don't act like a judge in which each side gets to present their case and then you decide it. You have the right to, the commission could go to the property. The commissioner could meet with a claimant, and then the information you're going to rely on has to be subject to a hearing so that the other side has an opportunity to respond to it. So for that reason, when witnesses come before the commission, if any member of the commission or the chair is asking inquisitive questions and trying to draw information out of a claimant, in my view, that's perfectly appropriate for an investigative body. And I forgot to mention that before when I was commenting earlier.
Thank you.
I have no other interests, specific relationship with anybody involved in any of these cases. I have not received any information related to any of these cases from any of the people involved. I can judge each claim individually based on the merits. I've researched. The only information I have is what we all have, are the packets that have been given to us. And I will continue to keep an open mind as we proceed.
Okay. With that said, counsel, your witness.
Yeah, just again, Ryan Hoyler, Robinson and Cole for Century Hills. Ms. Cronk, you'd mentioned that your complaints go back to November of 2022, correct?
Yes,
And you'd mentioned that there was mold as part of your complaints, correct?
yes,
And that you'd submitted those complaints, at least most of them, through the maintenance system, right?
yes, I did.
Okay. I don't know if you have a copy of this. I submitted it to the commission about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago. It's a copy of your maintenance request log. I'd be happy to hand you a copy right now if you want to take a look at it.
I've seen it.
Okay. Just so you have it right now, can you show me in your maintenance log, if you don't have it right now, again, happy to give you this copy, where you mention mold?
Okay, just to interject, I mean, a lot of the stuff is just background questions, so I just allow that to go forward. Before
Right,
we go any further,
apologies.
is this document that that you presented from the other side, you've seen it? The whole.
Yes,
Okay.
it was emailed to me by Kelly prior to the hearing.
Okay. And this is, counsel, this is her complete complaint log for the.
That's our understanding, yes.
Okay.
So there were bathroom complaints. I'm also looking at ones that were also in your packet that date back to December 16th of 2022
Okay?
that had been deleted from the portal. So those December 2022, May 17th of 2023, April 3rd of 2023
Yep.
are all bathroom maintenance requests that were told as completed.
Okay.
And that our bathroom was resurfaced and the tiles were fixed. That was November 16th of 2022 as well, so that is as far back as they go. There, I have shown them all to the council in the packet dating back to November 16th. I noticed that your document had some missing bathroom tickets as well.
Okay, just to clarify then, and I guess I apologize, I should have been asking these to the council. We do have in this packet the November 16th, 2022 request, the December 16th, 2022 request, the April 3rd, 2023 request, and I believe you said the last one was May. We have one from May 13th, 2023, that are all about the bathroom, I believe, and to note, none of them mention mold.
Yes, because that was also discussed with property management and maintenance once they had come to our unit. Once they did come without prior notice for our unit, they did come and try to work on it. We did bring it up to them multiple times. This is between the assistant property manager, the property manager, and head of maintenance with concierge, and nothing was ever done about it. And it was never recorded in our maintenance ticket comments. I believe the last one told us to refer to property management, and that was when we were told there was nothing else they could do for our bathroom.
But just to confirm then, in none of the written requests you made to maintenance, you never mentioned mold?
No,
And there's no testing that was done either by you or by concierge or anyone else that showed that there was any mold in the unit, correct?
no, there was not, because the health inspectors said that they no longer did mold testing, and concierge didn't, even though we told them multiple times when they had come to the unit.
Just to jump in, if I could, you didn't get any, aside from what the health inspector did you procure your own mold tests at all?
I did not. I was not able to afford a company to come out since I was also paying almost $2,000 in rent.
You said there's some missing tickets from this packet. What were you referring to?
I had misspoke. I thought I was missing the most recent ticket, but they were in the packet as well.
Okay, so there's no missing tickets in what concierge presented?
No, concierge presented all tickets.
Okay, but you also indicated that you had some verbal discussions with members of the maintenance staff as well as the concierge's front office?
Yes, I did.
Okay, did you raise the mold to them in any of those conversations?
Yes.
And what were their responses?
They didn't know what they could do, if there was anything they could do, but they had to get approval from higher up management.
Okay.
In the Just to confirm then, that it's your position that the maintenance requests that state that the unit, or the bathroom was repainted, and retiled, that those are incorrect? That's your position? That was not done?
Yes, that is my position, considering within 2-3 weeks of the work being done, the paint would peel all over again.
And just for the record, we do not object to the video shown because it does appear to be identical to the pictures that were included in the packet that was presented earlier.
I'm glad we can come to that agreement. Okay.
So otherwise, we don't have any further questions. We were hoping to have a witness here tonight. Unfortunately, it looks like they're not going to be able to make it, so we do not have anyone from maintenance here tonight.
Okay. All right, so you won't, so will that conclude, you don't have anything on your side of the case?
That's everything on our side of the case.
Okay. Do you have any questions of concierge?
I do not.
Okay. Okay.
You'd have to, if you want to speak, you'd have to be sworn in. Could you state your name for the record?
Avery Cortez.
And the information you provide tonight be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
You swear to that?
I swear. Just want to put on the record, my wife did miss. When we did go multiple times to the leasing office, they kept telling us that they actually were trying to put a whole new bathtub in because our bathtub was just peeling. She did miss that, so I just want to put it on the record. They told us multiple times that they had to put a whole new wall because everything was caving in, and a whole new bathtub. And every time we went, they said that they weren't getting no answers because it was a very expensive job. My wife just missed that.
When was that information first conveyed to you?
That was right after, I believe, our first maintenance ticket, because even before we moved in, I already saw there's paint peeling. So I already made it very aware to concierge that paint was peeling before we even officially moved into the apartment.
Okay.
Again, we don't have anyone to testify here tonight, but I have talked to the personnel at concierge, and I can confirm that they are in. They did claim that they painted and fixed the tiles multiple times, and that the tenants were asking for essentially a new bathroom, and that is not something they normally do, particularly while people are in there. They are in the process, now that they've moved out, of redoing that bathroom. It's just not something they normally do. But I understand that that's not evidence. I can't testify.
Okay,
So.
yeah, that's where it was, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all set. Anybody questions of this witness? None? Okay. At this point, we're going to close the evidence portion of this claim, and we're going to move to the point where we're going to deliberate on the merits of the claim. Okay. Counsel, or commissioners, rather? Thoughts, comments? I know we're reviewing it, but maybe I'll just tee it up with some thoughts that I have. I did, I think with respect to just jumping ahead a little bit, but just try to kind of frame our review of this. The tenant did present a very organized and detailed case. I saw the notes and copious notes with regard to the claims and issues presented in quite an orderly manner as she listed them in her packet. Note that she lived there for approximately a year before moving out. The $500 that she had made a request for per month reduction retroactively of her lease payments. Partly, I just want to point out, I know that that was a number that was discussed in past claims and cases, but I think that those a little bit factually different in the sense that while there were mold claims, those were certified mold claims. And testing, that still doesn't necessarily mean that she may not have for other grounds, but I just want to make it clear my feelings on it, that $500, I'm not so, wouldn't be wedded to that because that is a different set of circumstances where there was a certified mold testing where under the Relocation Act, those individuals had to have been moved out. And that $500 appeared to be something that we had awarded in situations that were leading up to, from the point where it manifested itself at the apartment to the point where they were forced to move out. So I don't know that we have that here, but it's not to say that there wouldn't necessarily be any compensation, but I don't know that that would be the guideline. I do note the tickets. I do find the witness credible in terms of making claims and talking with the staff. It's something that I would do as well. It always wouldn't necessarily be in writing, be either over the phone or while the person's out fixing one thing or fixing another. You do mention, in addition to that, or I have this issue, or if you have a clogged tub, you say, oh, by the way, part of the clog has to do with the paint. So it's understandable that wouldn't necessarily make it into the notes, but I do note as early as one of the tickets that was presented by Concierge's counsel, it was a ticket created back on November 5th, 2022. It did note right out of the gate, and I think that's towards pretty much the beginning, right when they moved into the apartment. The next day. They moved in on November 4th, 2022, and this ticket was created November 5th, 2022, of paint on bathtub is chipping, paint is clogging up the drain, causing the flow of water to not go down. I did notice that. I also noticed that a number of the other tickets, which isn't necessarily dispositive, but a number of the other tickets here go to other issues such as air conditioning not functioning, repeated issues with air conditioning. But there is a point, I think I believe it was the April 2023 notation that said that I think the gentleman's who just came up and said that there was some discussions verbally about Concierge acknowledging that they needed to put a whole new bathroom in. I think there was an acknowledgement in one of the tickets of that conversation, in fact, to confirm it. Yeah, I think there was a ticket created date April 3rd, 2023, where the description is, or location of problem, bathrooms / repairs. Description: we moved back here in November. My fiance discussed with Cameron at the bathroom had to get completely redone. Kevin came to our apartment and redid the bathtub twice. Since in the bathtub has peeled all up. I know I gave the plumber 2 bags of paint chips, which 2 of the maintenance guys do have pictures, and the wall is completely caving in. When I turn on the bathtub, paint chips are just floating in the water. And some other discussions about the pet alert. So that's right in the middle of her lease. So thoughts, comments, consideration?
I think there should be some reimbursement. I believe some reimbursement should be made to this family. To live like that is unacceptable, I think, my feeling.
I don't necessarily disagree. I do think that compensation is probably appropriate. Just how much and whether we have sufficient, and again, it's not so much sometimes an issue of credibility, it's what the evidence that's been presented and what we can consider. So there is a certain burden of proof that the individual has with respect to advancing their claims, so does the respondent in terms of defending the claim, but based on the evidence received, I do see evidence of the issue. I do see is properly documented in terms of the complaint. Just I don't know how much and for how long compensation would be appropriate.
And I would just, if I could briefly, I understand conceptually, the word compensation. All I would just advise is the measure that you're looking at is whether or not the rent that was charged was harsh and unconscionable under the circumstances. So if the conditions of the bathroom were such that that was harsh and unconscionable, you reach a number of how it should be adjusted to make it that way, as opposed to the term compensation
Correct.
suggests that you're doing
Yeah,
damages. So.
understood. So with that, I'll just revise. I do think that some of those conditions would be deemed, given that the individual is paying for a one-bedroom, one-bath apartment and doesn't have use of, or adequate use of a bath during certain, all or a portion of their tenancy, I do think that that would suffice as to be as harsh and unconscionable. But then the thing I struggle with is the amount of a rent reduction we think is appropriate under the harsh and unconscionable standard in light of how much the person's paying for their rent. And is that amount something that we want to, do we have enough evidence in the record to say that it should be something that's prorated over one or more months during the 12-month tenancy?
Well, I'm going to say that, given that we have adjudicated certain claims based on mold, but only mold that has been tested by an appropriate agency. So I'm not going to consider the mold issue. That's point one. On the paint chipping, I do feel that we should put a monetary value on what to compensate them for the loss of their, of their bathroom. People should be able to take a shower, whenever it pleases them. And I'm willing to consider that. What do you guys think would be fair and appropriate? I'm noticing that the rent on the front page here was $1,576 a month. And according to the Cronks, Ms. Cronk and her husband, that this really was the case for the entire, you were there for about less than a year? Or was it a whole year?
It's 11 months.
She was there for
11 months.
11
11
months.
and a half months.
11 and a half months, okay, so it's almost a year, okay. So I think that
No.
a reduction in the amount of rent that they should have charged.
Yeah, so I think maybe, I agree with everything you're saying. My issue then would be is, if we're trying to prorate it, there's different ways you can go about it. Coming up with, because I'm not sure that I see that this shower was unusable for a 12-month period. it may have been, I just don't know that I have all that I haven't have all that information enough to make that determination. However, so I don't know if and I'm not able to tell you saying that it's between March and May that it happened, or March and August. I think I'm probably more comfortable with an award of just a number that would reflect that the conditions at that apartment, which were harsh and unconscionable, in my determination, and go from there.
Yeah.
I can agree to that.
Me too.
So, with that being said, any thoughts on if we're all in agreement on a number, what that number may be in this case? So, it is a one-bedroom, one apartment, a one-bedroom, one-bath apartment. So, there were times that you could use it where there would be paint chipping. I don't know that, because the mold issue wasn't tested, it's not before us, certified, I don't know that I could pass on that. I do understand and find frustrating paint chips. I've been in apartments before where you have paint chips in there, and falling into the bathroom tub. It's not something pleasant. It's not something you want to do, especially if you have small animals too. Thoughts on the number?
Right. I'm thinking the $500 might be a little excessive.
Well, that's for a month. There's another way to approach it is what do you, well, I guess pro rata per month, but then we run into the issue of the proof of how long this condition was present.
Well,
So
apparently,
the course of a
Well, the
12-month lease, I don't know that I can't see that shower being unusable. I mean, unusable to the point where you can't, it may be a preference, but I don't know that it was unusable for a 12-month period. However, it's not something necessarily that I would have expected if I had a one-bedroom, at least for a one-bedroom, one-bath apartment. Over the course of 12 months,
what do you think is,
12, 15, 100
Yeah,
for the duration of the lease.
thinking more of 100 a month.
100 a month, I could live with that.
Thoughts?
That would be fair, 100 a month. What do you think?
So total being $1,200?
yeah, I think,
Okay. So
Yeah.
if that's what you want, we'll find out how everybody feels about that in terms of motion. So if somebody wants to make a motion to, in this case, since the tenant's not living in the unit, we're not making, I mean, do we still, I would ask counsel for the town in the commission about a retroactive reduction in the rent, similar to what we've done in the past. Okay. So in this case, what we do is retroactively reduce the rent from the date of the violation of, I'm sorry, not a date of violation, from the date that the tenant commenced the lease, which is total, and reducing it by that amount. In this case, it sounds like one or more of you will make a motion, is making a motion for a $100 retroactive reduction of the rent over a 12-month lease period. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So to that end, if someone can make a motion to that effect?
All right, I will make, can I make the motion? Okay. I think that we have reached an agreement that says that we will reduce the rent for the 12-month period of residency by $100 per month,
Okay, for a total of $1,200?
for a total of $1,200.
Is that a motion?
So
That's a motion. That's a motion.
Okay, Do I hear a motion by Commissioner Siglich? Do I hear a second?
I second it.
Okay, seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
I have it, unanimous, all four commissioners making that ruling. I would like to make, I'm sorry, 5 commissioners, sorry. Sorry about that.
We're used to seeing you sitting on the other side.
I was blocking them.
That's okay. With that being said, I want that, a motion, I would say, to direct concierge apartments to, within 7 days of receipt of the notice of this commission's determination of the award of $1,200, you will have, strike that, concierge to have a total of 30 days from the receipt of this written ruling to issue a check to the former tenant in the amount of $1,200, and that check directly to the finance director for the town of Rocky Hill, who will in turn remit that check to the complainant in this case. That's the order of the concierge. I'm sorry, so that would be a motion that I would like to make. Second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it, unanimous. So that being said, we'll hear the next claim, and we'll go back to the original order. In this case, we'll hear case number 2023-07. Okay, before we begin, we're going to have the witness sworn.
Could you state your name for the record?
Daniel Karimian.
And you swear that, or affirm, whatever the case may be, that the information you provide tonight will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I swear.
Okay, Mr. Krimian, you've heard your share of hearings. You know how the procedure goes forward. We've reviewed your claim. In this claim, I understand that you are still living at Concierge. Is that correct?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay. And I understand that you were, your situation, you had your unit tested for mold, and at a certain point, I believe on May 22nd, 2023, you were relocated out of your apartment from Concierge under the Relocation Act to another residence temporarily. Is that correct?
Yes, it was a hotel in Glastonbury. I believe it was the Hilton.
Okay. And you returned to the apartment back at Concierge on June 30th, 2023, correct?
I was lied to and told I could return, to which the town, I checked with them, and they told me absolutely not. We have not cleared it. At that point, I just decided I'm going to stay with my parents. I can't do the hotel. It was putting a strain on me. I work in IT, and my job requires me to rotate between all 3 offices. One of our offices is in Avon, and that's about a 40-minute drive in itself, and it was just reaching a point where my commute became almost, from Glastonbury to Avon, I was commuting over an hour. I might as well have been going to Springfield at that point. Even the Rocky Hill office, which is down the street from the Concierge, turned from a 8-minute commute to about a 25-minute commute with all the traffic over the Putnam Bridge. And I also had the Southington office I had to commute to. So at that point, I just stayed with my parents and I checked out of the hotel because I couldn't stay there anymore.
Okay, so when did you move back into your apartment?
I got a phone call from Kelly. It was the week of 4th of July. I was actually on vacation that week. I think it was July 6th or the 7th. It was a couple days after the 4th. I think it was a Thursday, because I know I was out at the beach with my friend when she called me.
And what was the substance of that call?
I was told that the unit was cleared for inspection. They told me to just give somebody from the town about an hour to show up to remove the sign off my door. I believe it was around 2 or 3 p.m. in the afternoon, which was fine. I was up in the old Lyme anyways. By the time I came back home, the sign was already ripped off my door, so I was good to go.
So, okay, if I just understand from your claim when you said earlier you're lied to, when I referred to the June 30th, 2023 move back in date, your testimony, if I understand correctly, was that when you were initially told by someone that June 30th you were cleared to go back, that was incorrect, that was false, and in reality you still had to wait for the town to clear it, and the town eventually cleared it sometime in the week after the 4th of July, correct?
Yes, because what the guy from the leasing told, and I don't remember his name, but he had me on speaker, and I remember him saying, hey, apartment D215, isn't that all clear? Don't we have the paperwork for that? And then I heard somebody faintly say, yeah, we've got the paperwork. Yeah, it's clear. And he told me I was clear and good to go. I had a feeling that was too good to be true. So I reached out to the town. I believe I emailed Kelly, and I either emailed or called her, and she said, no, we have not gotten clearance that you're okay to go back yet. We need the paperwork in our hands in order to do that. So at that point, I went there to just grab more clothes because I was running out of clothes, and it was just getting too costly for me to constantly keep washing the clothes that I had with me at the hotel, and that was it. And then from there on, I called my dad, and I said, I can't go back. I was lied to. Can I just stay with you guys for the remainder of it?
I understood. What I'm trying to pinpoint now is essentially, do you with 4th of July, I'm looking real quickly, fell on a Tuesday
Yeah.
in 2023. Was it that week that you got a call from Kelly and saying it was cleared, or was it the following week?
No, I got a call that week because I was on vacation that week.
Okay. And so the apartment was cleared at some point the week of 4th of July, correct?
Yes, and I was told that the sign would be taken down and that I could go home. I had my friend drop me off there just so I could see for myself. The sign was already taken down. I walked through it just to see what had really changed, and it looked okay to me. And then from there, I went over to my parents' house and I just stayed one more night and I packed, and then after work, yeah.
Yeah, no, and I understand that you're frustrated with it.
No,
being.
no problem.
I know we have claims, so I'll just try to be more precise with my questions. When did the mold that you're complaining of? I'm sorry. Where was the location of the mold?
It was all over the bathroom. I had mold on the ceiling. I had mold up on the wall, like in the corners and the crevices. I had mold on the caulk in the tub.
Okay, and then that's in the mold test report. When did it first start to manifest itself?
It got really aggressive around the beginning of last year, to the point where I started scrubbing it. I just figured the ventilation is pretty poor in that unit. I just figured it was just the fan was just so outdated that it couldn't ventilate as well as it could. So I took matters into my own hands. I'm a very clean person, so I just went out and bought more cleaning products, and I scrubbed as much as I could. I got the mold off, and then within a couple days, it just came right back.
When did you notify the landlord of the mold issues? When you first notified him?
I don't believe I notified them because this is when all the lawsuits started coming around, and I started seeing stuff in like the Hartford Courant that they were being sued, that they were being investigated with the Department of Health. So at that point, and I started talking to other neighbors, and they were telling me about what was going on, and just have them take care of it. If it's already being in action, and I'm reading an article in the Courant that it's being investigated, I talked to my dad, and he was like, "You better get on that."
Understood. Okay. When did you ever notify, if at all, concierge, say, I got mold in my apartment, in my bathroom, can you come address it?
I did notify them shortly after speaking to the town to have somebody come out here, to which they said that they were aware of it, and they told me to just handle it with the town.
Who told you to handle it with the town?
It was a woman that I spoke to. I don't remember her
At
name.
concierge?
Yes, somebody from the leasing office.
Do you know when that took place?
I want to say it was sometime in April. I think it was in April, maybe towards the end.
Of 2023?
Yes.
Okay. So if I, if I could, just trying to distill your point, your issues with regard to the mold, and the fact that you had to be relocated, and, are there's any, and it's your understanding, I'm sorry, your claim that those conditions leading up to the point where you were relocated out of your apartment for a brief period of time were harsh and unconscionable, is that correct?
That's what the report said. The living room also tested for high levels of poor air quality.
Is there anything else with regard to your claim aside from the mold issue?
Oh, yes. When I first moved in,
Anything else that you seek compensation for? I'm sorry, a claim that's you want to present before this commission?
I have a lot of complaints, yes.
Okay.
The mold is just one part of it.
The reason I'm asking is because in your complaint, it says, tenant is asking, seeking relief in whole and in part. With regard to your claim, you have a notation, mold testing and town code violation. You talk about the health code violation, correct? Mm-hmm. So it just needs to be verbal. Is that
Wait,
yes?
can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
You have you checked off mold testing and town code violation. Is that correct?
Yes, because the town came and tested for the mold.
Okay. The reason why I'm asking is just trying to sort of define your claim is because it seems to be that you're going to go in some other areas, but I don't know that that information has been presented as in your complaint.
Well, in my packets, it shows all the maintenance requests that I had for other issues.
Yeah, but with regard to the complaint that you filed, you're seeking action on mold testing and town code violation. So I understand that you have supports dealing with some other conditions with it, but I guess the focus of our complaint or the focus of this commission would be as to what you're specifically claiming of. I understand that you have a lot of other things, and with all due respect, I just don't know that it jumps out at us about what the other complaints are, whether there's something that's compensable.
Well, I also had a pest issue, which I ended up having to take care of myself until I finally demanded they bring in pest control, or else I'd bring the third dead mouse that I killed myself to the leasing office. Which, by the time pest control came, it was pretty much pointless because I had successfully trapped and killed all 4 mice myself.
Okay. I think there's another area that I think we're probably focused on. In your complaint, you've checked off a box about the rental increase.
Yes, that was another big issue for me.
Okay, and that's probably more of an issue that would probably be properly before this commission to hear.
Okay.
The rental increase that you had was in the amount of, I believe it was $328.
Well, in grand total, since I've moved in there, my rent's gone up $610, probably a little bit more than that. When I first moved in 2020, my rent was $1,025 a month, to which I was told was a blowout special due to COVID. I was also given a heads up that the unit was not going to be one of the renovated, updated units, which was fine. I was in the middle of a breakup and I needed to get out of my ex's house and get on my own living conditions on my own. So I toured the apartment. At the time, it looked okay. It wasn't the flashiest apartment, but it was something that I needed, and it had everything I needed, and you could not beat that price, so I took it. In 2021, my rent went up to $1,125, and I did the math, and I said, well, that's about $80, $90. That's, it is what it is. That's kind of normal. In 2023, it jumped up to $1,450. I'm sorry, in 2022, it jumped up to $1,450.
No,
When
I understand, but we can't, those claims wouldn't be properly before us. We need to focus on what your last rental increase was.
Okay.
And-
Well, my rents increased twice in 2023. It went up to $1,565 to $1,610 when they rolled out the new separate charges for sewer, trash, recycle, pest control.
In your complaint, it says that the rental increase amount was $328.
Yes, but it shows in the back of the packet that I notified Kelly that they adjusted it once they started charging us separately for other things like trash and sewer.
What's your feeling that the appropriate rent should be then?
Honestly, I should be paying anywhere between $1,250 to $1,300, and I have proof in my packet showing that they are making the same unit that I have available, the Franklin it's called. They are offering it as low as around, I believe, anywhere between $1,250 to $1,300, and this is an updated unit, so it's got the hardwood floors, the granite countertops, the stainless steel appliances.
Have you had any communications with concierge about moving to that unit or why?
They always told me that there was nothing available. And then they just gave me I understand your frustration, but rent goes up everywhere in Connecticut. This is average, which it's not average.
Okay. Do you have any other comparables on rental units that are like kind and quality as the unit that you're in, that other than that Franklin unit?
There's units for one bedrooms that are a little bit bigger than mine, and even those for blowout specials are like maybe $1,350. $1,375 at the most.
That's a concierge?
Yes, and I'm seeing 2 bedrooms right now going over $1,600 for the first year, and I'm paying $1,610 a month for an outdated 1-bedroom, and they're offering 2 bedrooms for the first year for around that price, and they're renovated.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
No.
No. All right. Do you have at this point, we're going to turn over to counsel. Concierge may or may not have any questions. Again, we have your packet here, so we reviewed it, so we've asked a fair amount of questions, but don't think that not asking any other questions doesn't mean one way or the other about your claim.
And if I could jump in briefly, my suggestion is, because I'm sure you want to renew the same requests.
Absolutely.
The requests of recusal were made on all 4 matters. My suggestion is, if there were an appeal in the following 3, that the record that was made in the first hearing, we could use that same record unless they changed their mind in the other, rather than go through the exercise each time, if that's acceptable.
I'm fine with that. I just do want to point out for this particular matter, for this particular hearing with Mr. Karimian, that Mr. Karimian was the third party with whom Commissioner Bosky directly communicated via social media, and we have included that post in the letter. So that is, again, we would absolutely request that Commissioner Bosky recuse herself. If she's not going to recuse herself for the other 3, then certainly for this one, due to the ex parte communications.
Were the communications substantive regarding this
They were
claim?
substantive regarding Century Hills. Whether they were substantive regarding the specific complaints Mr. Karimian had, I don't believe so. But they certainly spoke to Century Hills.
Can I also add one thing, or do I have to wait?
You go ahead.
I also want to make it clear that when I was told I could move back into my apartment, I'm assuming it was the manager that I spoke to, he said, I just want to let you know that these things happen all the time. No matter where you live, you're always going to have mold. You know that, right? I'm not trying to make light of your case, but I just want to be realistic with you, as if that was supposed to make the situation any better.
Understood. Okay. At this point, council may have some questions from you, if we could.
And I don't know if Commissioner Bosky, if you want to add anything, otherwise
I'm
you.
fine.
you're fine.
So I assume Commissioner Bosky is not going to be recusing herself for this one then? I just want to confirm that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Again, Ryan Hoyler for Robinson and Cole for Century Hills. I just want to confirm, I think you covered this in what you spoke about, but you did not make a formal maintenance request to Century Hills with respect to the mold, correct?
No, and that was because the lawsuit was already in motion, and I had already gotten information from my neighbors that I could contact the town and that they would schedule having a tester come in.
But you believe you made some sort of verbal communication to Century Hills some point?
Oh, I made it
in
aware.
April?
I did make it aware to them, and they
Okay.
basically shrugged it off and kind of like rolled their eyes. It was when I had to grab a package from the mailroom because that year somebody busted into the mailroom and all packages were going to the leasing office. So I brought it up, and it was kind of like yeah, we're aware of it. It is what it is.
And this was sometime, you think, in April of 2023?
It was somewhere around there, yes.
Okay. And just to clarify, your most We have the, I don't know if you've seen a copy of it, but we did provide a copy of your ledger to the commission here, and it does indicate that your most recent rent, and I want to confirm this with you, is, and you were paying this through December of 2023, was $1,534 plus ongoing, like, utility charges, like garbage and water and things like that.
Right,
correct?
which makes it come out to anywhere between 1609 to 1610.
And then your rent prior to that was $1,453?
Correct.
And then prior to that, it looks like it was $1,141?
Correct.
Okay. And then with regard to your maintenance requests, again, we do have the maintenance log that we've provided to the commission here. You did make requests, you'd mentioned about some pests in your unit, correct?
Yes, multiple times.
Okay,
And I was also never reimbursed for buying my own bait and traps.
okay. During the period that you were put up in the hotel, who was paying for the room in the hotel? Was it you?
No,
Okay, it was Century Hills that was paying for the room in the hotel.
I thought it was the town, but maybe.
Okay. But you didn't have, you still had to, you're out alleging tonight that you had to do like laundry and things like that that were not part of what was covered as part of your,
Correct. Yes, I still had to take care of laundry. I had to take care of groceries. I had to pay more in gas for fuel because I was commuting further.
okay. You mentioned that you had to commute up to Avon. Your commute to Avon, was it any further
A lot
with
further.
the hotel than it was when you were living in Century Hills?
A lot. From Century Hills to Avon, I can get there around 35 to 40 minutes, depending on traffic. With Glastonbury, I was getting there about over an hour.
I don't have any further questions. I would like to make some closing remarks when we're ready, but I don't have any further questions.
So this portion, you can, unless we have any follow-up questions, we don't. Thank you for your
Thank you.
time. At this point, you have something more or less summation, not necessarily
just
evidence, but more summation.
Kind of a summation at this
Okay.
point. It is what it is at this point with we accept that he was removed from his unit for at least 2 months due to the mold from May through the beginning of July. As part of the packet, we included the letters from the town on July 6th clearing the unit. I'm not 100% sure what happened on June 30th. My best guess is we had submitted, and it's in the letters, all of the documentation to the town on June 26th, and they just didn't clear the unit until July 6th. So that's, my guess is somebody in the maintenance office was under the impression that they'd submitted everything, but I don't know that for a fact. Would like to point out that the maintenance requests do indicate that there was no request or notification of the mold prior to the Sherwood report that came out in early April. I think with respect to the other units being offered for, the open units being offered for lesser amounts, we've heard testimony at the prior hearings. We've talked about this, that there's a reason you offer empty units. That's a loss leader. You're trying to get someone into the unit. And with respect to the rental increases, at prior hearings, this commission has accepted 15% year over year as an acceptable rental increases. The rental increases for this unit are significantly less than 15% in the past year. So that's kind of where we stand for everything.
When you said 15% this past year,
I believe the rent was increased from 14 something to 1534, which is certainly less than 15%.
okay, because we had a rental increase. I'm just trying to trace it. You were speaking quickly. The rental increase, as alleged, was $328, but I think was that because,
110?
well, all the course over 3 years, but I'm trying to look for the most recent rental increase.
The most recent rental increases you'll see from the ledger that we included as part of our evidence was from, I'm sorry, I put it away and now I can't find my ledger. It was something like here it is. It went from 1453 in 2022 to 1534 in 2023, plus utility costs. But even with the included utility costs, you're still talking significantly less than 15% there.
Understood. Okay, thank you. All right, at this point in the hearing, we're going to close evidence and begin our deliberations on the claim. So turning to that, counsel just teed off. Looking at this, I think there's some history, particularly with this building, not necessarily this unit, but the nature of this claim. I think this is hopefully the last of the ones that we've had to come before us with regard to the Relocation Act and the mold conditions. And as counsel pointed out, it kind of is what it is. It appears that the individual did move out pursuant to the Relocation Act May 22nd, 2023, and it was cleared on July 6, 2023. Question from counsel for the commission. Am I correct in my understanding that the rent, while the town is putting up the individual pursuant to the Relocation Act, that individual, I'm sorry, does not necessarily have to remit rent under the lease to the landlord, correct?
Well, I know you're asking me a question. I'm going to steer a slightly different direction. I really think the issue before the commission is always, it can be two things, three, but I'll put retaliatory action aside. One would be just, are the rents that are being charged harsh and unconscionable? And then the second are instances in which there's an outstanding code violation. You can then require the tenant stops making payment, and payment can be made to the town. During a relocation period, that really is going to be handled separately under the Relocation Act. So
I think I'm sorry to interrupt. I think I do understand now. It was more of trying to jog my memory as to the procedure that we followed in that. And I think the answer is that in past instances where there has been mold test and mold certified, as it is here, has been the case for Mr. Crimian's claim in an apartment, is that we've had a retroactive reduction of rent issued from the point that the future, from the date that the unit was cleared, in this case July 6, 2023, retroactively back to the point where we can determine that it was based on the evidence presented when it may have first manifested itself, and when it's been reasonable to put on that, to fix a date for that. Now, I believe here the testimony thus has been that the individual believes it's really started to manifest itself in April. I know that he moved out in May 22nd. I'm also cognizant of the fact that, well, counsel does, for concierge, does realize that, the facts are what the facts with regard to Relocation Act, and there is a certain amount or certain history with this commission and concierge in terms of finding a retroactive reduction based on the harsh and unconscionable conditions of that unit based on mold. There is an absence of the complaints being in the written record, in the form of the written record to concierge. I also understand that the tenant did say it was in the midst of a number of other individuals that that had claims before us that had similar claims. So there may have been some thought that it was futile to deal directly with concierge, and that this issue was sort of in the hands of the Health Commission and the folks that were doing the mold testing. So that is understandable. I do think that an award, not an award, or retroactive reduction of the rent is certainly warranted in this situation, up to the amount of $500 per month, pro rata from July 6th back to a date not any earlier than April 1st. But I would offer that up to the commission and get their thoughts on that. At least as far as either the amount I think is not really in dispute. There's precedent for that, but I think it's more about based on the evidence presented, credibility of the witnesses, and when this first manifested itself. Any thoughts about that? I mean, the only testimony right now thus far is, unfortunately, the concierge didn't have any witness to present on the issue when it manifested itself, although they did present the written record of the complaints. There is an absence of that, but I also have testimony from the one witness here as to explain to why that was not in the written record. Again, the earliest I think we can consider is April 1st. Is that something reasonable?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So the first issue would be, I think that may warrant a motion, is if this commission feels in light of the harsh and unconscionable conditions posed by the presence of mold that was certified in a report, if retroactive reduction of rent, $500 dating from July 6, 2023 back to April 1st, 2023? Is that something that want to entertain a motion for?
We'll entertain a motion.
Okay, so you're making a motion. I guess to restate what I said, motion would be a retroactive reduction of this individual's rent from $500 a month from July 6, 2023, back to April 1st, 2023. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Siglich. Okay, any other discussion?
I guess I'm a little confused because I don't see that as part of the case. I see that the original case is concerned about the rental increase, and it makes no mention of.
Yeah, and I remiss to not making that statement earlier. I looked at his claim, and it was a little confusing at first because I was focusing initially on the complaint form that had mold testing and town code violation, which I understood to be that part of his claim. But I also, as it was pointed out to me earlier, is there's also a rental increase component of his claim.
Mm-hmm.
So my intention would be is to deal with the mold claim and then separate and apart deal with the rental increase portion of his claim.
Okay.
Sorry if I didn't say that.
Okay.
I just kind of jumped right into that. So any other discussion or clarification?
None.
Hearing none. All in favor?
Who seconded the motion?
Second motion was Commissioner Stiglitz.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, unanimous. So on this resident is still a tenant in the building, so I think we need to address, I want to make a motion that within 30 days of receipt of a concierge's receipt of this commission's written decision with regard to the reduction, that they be directed to either remit a check in the amount of whatever it comes out to, the $500 reduction pro rata from July 6th back to April 1st, remit a check to the tenant, or reduce the rent going forward until such time as the credit has been used up for that amount. So,
And I would just put on the record that the staff could handle this, but you don't need to deal with this tonight, but it's possible during some window of time, he wasn't charged because of the relocation. So if it turned out he wasn't charged for a portion of that period of time, then obviously concierge doesn't have to reimburse him. But to the extent between April 1 and July 6, he was charged, he gets that amount.
correct, yes, and that would be, that I would incorporate that as part of my motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, so that passes. With regard to the rental increase, I understand, based on both parties, that sort of distilled and focused the issue to is the rental increase of the most recent tenancy that was signed up for is actually 1453. Previously, it's now 1534, plus utilities. So there's a different component of that that's being charged. I do agree that amount, while we've seen, is not such that it would be harsh and unconscionable, in my opinion. I understand that this tenant is certainly frustrated with the price increases. I think we all are with regard to whether it be rent, shopping, so, food, whatnot. It is what it is. It's unfortunate. I can understand the frustration, but I don't feel that increase, even with the utilities, warrants a harsh and unconscionable finding under the standard that we're presented with. I mean, again, this is not a rent control state, so it's unfortunate that the scope of our focus is only on whether the harsh and unconscionable standard. I don't believe that rental increase fits that. Open any thoughts?
Well, anything that I've checked into, in recent times, by doing a lot of reading and a couple of phone calls locally, the median increase in the last 2 years has been about 15% nationwide. That incorporates the entire country here. So I feel that I would, if the rent increase from a year to year, okay, goes below that 15%, then I don't feel that it's, unconscionable, the rent.
Okay. With
So-
that, do we find a motion? I guess it would be no cause on that issue of a rental increase?
Can I ask a question of the,
No, we can't.
no, we can't, okay, all right, I forget,
Okay.
yeah, I was gonna.
So we would need a
I'll ask you
motion,
again.
if we're in agreement, or if you want to, you can make a motion to encapsulate that.
Based on the portion of the increase in the rent, considering all of the, what the rent was to what the rent is now, it falls beneath that 15%, and therefore, I would not vote
So I guess,
to reduce the rent.
okay, if I could, to clarify, just maybe a friendly amendment would be to make a motion finding in favor of concierge on the issue of the rental increase being not harsh and unconscionable.
Okay, I find that the rent increase on the part of concierge was not unconscionable.
Okay?
Okay,
Do I hear a second on that motion?
Second.
Second. Commissioner Finnegan. Okay, any discussion? Hearing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it, all unanimous. Okay, we're gonna turn to the next, does anybody need a break?
nope.
All right, we're gonna roll into the next matter, which is
Okay, thank you.
Julian Finnegan, case number 2023-08. I'll say for the record, I've checked and vetted this. Julian Finnegan is not related to Commissioner Finnegan, so we can proceed. In case there was any question. Okay.
Ready to go? State your name for the record,
Julian Rose Finnegan.
and you swear or affirm, whatever the case may be, that the information you provide tonight will be the truth and the whole truth.
I do.
All right, good evening, Ms. Finnegan. I do see your complaint. I just wanted to just clarify, like, your rental increase right now was $33 per month? That was the increase?
That was a proposed increase, yes. I never signed a new lease, so that didn't go into effect.
Okay, so you're month to month?
Yes.
Okay, how long have you been month to month?
Since July of 2023.
Okay, so what is the current rent that you're paying?
1935 with the addition of utilities. I'm billed for water and sewer.
Okay, and does that 1935 include the $33 increase?
No, because I never signed a new lease.
Was the 1935 the amount you're paying per month up until the time of your expiration of your written lease?
My original lease, I don't know if this answers your question. My
The
original,
one immediately preceding?
yes. So no, my rent before the increase to the 1935, I was paying 1844.
Okay, so when you had the last written lease that you had, when did that expire?
In July of 2023.
Okay, in June 2023, what was your monthly rent?
It was the same, 1935.
Okay, so you stayed at 1935.
Yes,
Okay, and they proposed to you in a new lease an increase of $33.
yes,
And you rejected that?
correct.
Okay. And now you're in a month-to-month tenancy.
Yes.
And the ask of this commission, the relief you're requesting?
What's that?
If you could stay for this commission, what's the ask, what the
Oh, yes.
relief you're requesting?
Okay. So the relief I'm requesting is a reimbursement of the cost of the utilities. So I've paid, in 27 months, I've paid $3,810 for water and sewer. And considering that there is no way for them to gauge or indicate my individual usage of water, and in addition to that, there have been several instances where pipes have broken and been gushing water for days down into the parking lot, and so all of the residents' utility bills during that time for water and sewer increased significantly. So just a good, I don't know if I ever said this, but it comes out to average $211 a month for water and sewer for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment.
And this is over the course of, how long have you lived there?
27 months.
So you want, your ask is that you made a total payment of $3,810 for water and sewer, correct?
Correct, yeah.
And that's over the course of 27 months living there?
Yes.
And what do you think that you should have been paying?
Well, if I had a meter on I had a house in Glastonbury for 8 years, and my water bill there we had 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and a pool in the backyard we would fill every year. And I never had a water bill that was anywhere near the level of 1 month at Concierge's water bill. So the other portion of it, why I'm asking for the full reimbursement, is because most other tenants were not charged for water or sewer. It was something unique to my lease for some reason. As the previous gentleman just said, that they had added that recently, I think they said this year or last year, whereas I've been paying that fee since 2021.
Okay. You said that you had owned a home before, and I don't get into too many details, but I did some quick math. $3,810 that you're seeking for reimbursement for water and sewer over the course of 27 months. You said you never received a bill that high at a home that also included a pool. That averages out to about $141 a month. Is your testimony?
Correct.
You never had a water bill higher than that when you lived in a home in Glastonbury?
No.
Did you have well water?
No. At that time, I rented in Glastonbury, so water was also included in my rent. But
So it wasn't a home?
it was a home, yes. But he would share the water bill with us because he was seeing the pool go up and all that.
Okay.
And I believe they come out every 3 months, so it's gauged a little bit differently.
So with regard to aside from so you're asking for the full 3810 back over the course of
Ideally,
27
yes.
months? Okay. Anything else?
Yes, so in the course of my time there, my electricity bill has also become exorbitant, going up to, I think it's in my notes here, up to $541 for 1 month. And part of that is because there are holes, there are holes in the walls that create a draft that bring in a lot of cold air. There's also, on my floor in particular, 2 broken windows. One is smashed glass, I believe there's a picture of it in there, and there's another one with plywood boarded up over it. And those create a significant amount of draft air that comes in, and our apartments are not well insulated. The door, there's a gap, you know, you can put one of those little things on there, but every time you open or close your door, that enormous draft, because of all the vents being connected, and that sucking the air up, it brings a lot of cold air into the apartment. It's also electric heat system, which I understand is more expensive, but the other issue about the electricity is that when we were having these periods of time where we would have boiling hot water coming out of our faucets at all times of the day and night, we were paying for that, for the electricity to heat that water. And that was beyond my control of being able to have that water heater fixed. So that issue was going on for quite some time as well, which accounted for the increase in my electricity bill.
So what are you asking with regard to the increase in the electricity bill?
So for electricity, since I've been there, I paid $3,711. I'm seeking to have half of that reimbursed to me from them, or reduced from my rent payments.
And the reason you said was because it's poorly insulated, and you said there's a broken window?
Yeah, there's 2 broken windows.
Did you report is it the broken windows to your unit?
They're not in my unit, they're in my hallway outside of my unit. And yes, I've reported them several times. I've sent pictures almost weekly to them indicating that these are not being fixed, and nothing has been done. It's been several months.
Okay. Anything else?
Yes, so as far as the rent goes, because I'm not being provided a living space that is up to health, safety, and fire code, and I haven't been since I moved in there, I'm requesting a retroactive reduction in my rent. That would also reflect what they are currently renting the same unit that I'm in for, which is $1,600 a month versus I'm paying $1,935 before fees. So after my water, sewer, and they tack on $100, what do they call it, utilities fee, or not utilities, but like for the gym and pool and stuff, it comes out to almost $2,200 that I'm paying a month.
Okay. Okay. That's fairly summarizes your claim?
Yes, so the,
Bearing in mind, we've had this, I just wanted to distill it.
yeah,
so
I'm giving you,
purpose of
I'm
motion is-
trying to give you the bare bones version of it, because I did a little bit of math since I put that in. So the reimbursement on rent that I would be requesting is $8,226 to equal the difference between my rent for each of the months I was there based on what the rent was, to bring it down to the $1,600 a month.
And you want this over the course of 27 months? Prorated, in other words. You're bringing the rent down to $1,635 over the course of
Yes.
27 months?
Yes.
Had you always been paying $1,935 for 27 months?
No, but when it was $1,844, the math was just different. So I just added what the difference between $1,600 and $1,844 versus $1,935 and $1,600.
And you're saying that the total amount over the 27 months is $8,226?
Right, yeah.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
There's a,
I do have one question. In terms of the water portion of what you're paying as compared to where you were living in a house someplace, okay? You're just assuming that that's an overcharge, is that correct?
Well, I can't make that assumption because I'm not provided any, they don't meter them. So I just get a random number on my bill that's added. It's not even itemized. When I go to pay my rent online, I had to specifically request, for the purpose of this hearing, this itemized bill that breaks down all of the charges that are added in addition to my rent. So once we started investigating, my former neighbor and I, like the situation with the water, because the bills were just, I mean, they were $300 and $400 some months that were being added for water and sewer. And that's when we discovered that they don't have a way of gauging how much each unit is using for water. So all of the washers and dryers, for example, we pay with a coin operated or, card operated thing to wash our laundry. It's $5.40 a load to wash and dry it. But then we're also paying for the water that runs the washers and dryers in our utility bills. So there's fundamental issues like that create a situation in which, it's not the average, like, oh, I just don't want to pay for water. I know I signed my lease for that, but I didn't expect to be paying for the water that's in every washer in every building, the water that's pouring out into the parking lot, the water that is filling and refilling the pool when they repaired them the past 2 years in a row. I haven't been able to get any information provided that shows how they are determining what I should be paying for water and sewer every month.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so you have not signed a lease since May of 2022, correct? Or is that correct? I don't know.
June of 2022. Yeah, my first lease was a 9-month lease.
Okay.
Which was why it was slightly higher than what they would have originally put me in there for. And then I signed a 12-month lease. And then when my lease came up again, I said, I'm not living in a place that meets health, safety, and fire codes. I don't feel comfortable paying you more money when this place is not up to code. And there's, litigation going on from the town. Like, that's highly concerning. And so they kind of just dropped the issue, honestly, like it wasn't discussed. They also were going through at the time, I don't know how many managers we went through during that period of time, but it was at least 3 or 4. And so I think just between all the disorganization in the office level, the management level, they just kind of let it go. Recently, I did go to the office and ask, I was advised by my outside counsel to go and just talk to them and say, hey, you're advertising these rent specials for $1,600 for my unit. Like, I would sign another lease if you were willing to reduce my rent to that rate. And they said, absolutely not. We do not do that for tenants, even though I've paid every single month on time in full. They were very passive aggressive with me and said, we'll email you a copy of your new lease with an increase. And I never received an email of that. I also don't receive any emails from them anymore. It's like they removed me from their email list. So during the snowstorm over the past couple of days, I was hearing that residents received 16 emails advising them that their cars would be towed. 16 in the 2 days that the storm was coming in. So it's just things like that. It's sort of more the overall environment in which I'm having to live there that's creating a discrepancy between the value of the apartment that I'm renting and the quality of the apartment that I'm being provided. There's a huge discrepancy there.
All right, so that so that I have a clear understanding of, in total, what kind, put a dollar value on, in total, of the amount of money that you are looking for.
Wait, did you ask it for a total?
Yeah.
Oh, I got that for you.
What do you
Okay,
got?
go
We'll see if
ahead.
it matches.
I have $8,226 to take copious notes here, of the rental reduction back 27 months to reflect a rate which you feel is appropriate, $1,635. So that's $8,226. You want the full amount of water and sewer, $3,810 back to you for the course of the 27 months. So you add that to it, $3,810. And then half the amount for the electricity, the total amount was $3,711. Half that amount comes out to $1,855.50. The total for the numerical value for the claim is $13,891.50.
That sounds about right.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? No. Okay. So at this point, you can stay there. We're going to ask counsel for concierge to come up to the microphone and identify themselves for the record. And then I think we've had a good rapport, so asking the questions directly will allow that, as long as we're not violating the procedure over there. You good with it? Okay, we're good with it. Okay, good.
And I actually don't think I have any questions on cross for this, since you've already confirmed that she's not related to Commissioner Finnegan, which was a little question I was going to ask for the record, but I do have some.
Until we get a Smith, and it's all over.
Yeah. But I do have some points I'd like to raise in summation,
Summation, okay,
about
so,
the evidence.
so at this point, you could step out, and they have no questions for you, so we're gonna, that portion right now is, council's going to just present, summation, basically. It's not necessarily, it's a summing up of an argument or their position, but it's not necessarily to be received as evidence.
Okay.
Understood?
Yes, one other thing I just wanted to reiterate that's on my request on the front page of my packet is my request that any rent collected from here on out be put in escrow in holding by the town of Rocky Hill, by which if these health, safety, and fire code violations are not resolved by the end of my lease term, that money would stay in escrow and not in.
Understood. I have it written down.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
So I can say, because he doesn't have questions, right?
If you want to go up, you could stay there, that's probably easier.
Just as soon stay here, save the time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the bulk of what we heard in the presentation was based on what she's seeking for water and sewer and electrical. On water and I would say first on those issues, I don't think the evidence that's been submitted reflects that things were charged improperly here. The provisions about charging for electrical and water and sewer were in her lease. If you look at the emails that she put into the record with her claim, she asked about that and it was explained to her early on in her tenancy. And I don't think that there's any evidence here that things were calculated improperly. She did talk about some things that potentially contributed to higher charges there. I would say on the water and sewer, she's seeking the entire amount of the water and sewer bills to be refunded. I don't think the evidence warrants that. Even if there were, she could establish some improperly high water and sewer charges, she still would have been paying something for water and sewer under her lease, and she hasn't established what the difference between what she claims what she should have been charged and how that compares to what she was actually charged. On the electrical portion of it, there's been testimony at previous hearings before this commission about the increases in electrical charges over the last year or 2 years, and I think the commission needs to take that into account. There's also not any evidence in the record she submitted about the conditions that allegedly caused the higher electrical bills. She talked about broken windows and things like that. The photographs that are submitted in the record are almost entirely from the common areas and don't depict these conditions. And then in terms of the kind of general rent reduction or rent adjustment that she's seeking, she hasn't quantified or provided evidence of what additional damages aside from what she's talked about with respect to the utilities would warrant that. It really seems like double counting because there's no additional evidence that would support that. She's talked a lot in generalities about problems at the building. Again, the evidence she's submitted is almost entirely about the common areas and doesn't support an adjustment based on conditions in her unit, which she really hasn't submitted any evidence of. And that there was some discussion at the beginning of the presentation about the rent increase. I would there's been discussion about the kind of market level of increases. It's certainly well within that, and so we would submit that no relief is warranted on that front either.
All right, thank you, Counselor. Okay, at this point, we're going to move to close the evidence portion of the hearing so that we could deliberate openly with regard to the claims. So just to frame the issues, I'll just restate, there's tenants, I guess our charge again is whether the rent being charged is harsh and unconscionable. In this particular case, there's several considerations or claims being made. One was for $8,226 retroactive back over the course of 27 months. 3810 for the complete water and sewer charges dating 27 months. 1855.50 representing half of the electricity utility bills over the course of 27 months. Also asking for escrowing of future rent towards the town of Rocky Hill. So I've taken some notes. I'm probably sure that some folks have some thoughts as well, but just to continue, with regard to the claim of $8,226, I struggle with that because over the course of that period, at least 2 written leases were entered into. 2 written leases where they're both parties at arm's length transaction, entered into a contract for the tenancy. That tenancy also included the provision of water and sewer and other utilities that would be borne by the individual. Those apartments are electrically heated. It's not the best way to go about it, but it is what it is. So again, those were part of a matter of contract. I do understand that this tenant is also in a month-to-month tenancy. That month-to-month tenancy is reflected in part because of the conditions, which I see here, mostly focus on the general condition of the property, which I don't find pleasing, but don't necessarily affect, I mean, while it has to do with her living experience there, don't directly impact on her as much as I would say. They do, let me strike that, they would impact on her living there at that complex, but they speak more to the general conditions as opposed to her specific unit. The other ask about escrowing future tenancy, she has a month-to-month tenancy, so I don't know how that would really work, to be honest with you. Tenancies can be terminated at any time, and I'm not sure that we're in that. We would have that role to award that in the condition in these conditions, but in any event, we have a $13,891.50 claim.
One thing, all I would add is in terms of your last comment about the fact that it's a month-to-month, if there was evidence of municipal code violations, that's the section in the statutes that if there are outstanding code violations regarding that you could require rent to be paid. So while they allowed her to continue to be a month-to-month, that would be paid to the town, but she would have had to prove that there were in fact code violations, and that's for you to decide. But that's would be the only basis for your commission to order that the money be paid over to the town if there are outstanding code violations.
In the packet, and I thank you for pointing that out. In our packet, I don't have any written submissions with that. I know that we had some general testimony about it, but I don't have anything in that area of evidence of alleged violations of state statutes or ordinances related to health and safety. I know you may have some thoughts.
I would like to state something because I want to focus on the water situation. Here in this part of Connecticut, and I'm talking about the Hartford, the MDC, actually. I own a house here, okay? I own a really big house. The bottom line is that the water bill incorporates anything that has to be done with the piping changes in 4 different communities, is what I understand, because I questioned this both with MDC, the water company, and with others here in town. Our water bills tend to, I can remember when I moved here 38 years ago into town, the town actually, the water bill was part of the taxes that you paid to the town, okay? And about 2 years later, they changed it, and it became MDC, and there are 4 or 5 different towns, and anytime there's an issue or problem, or the changing of all of the pipes, okay, that conduct the water in Hartford, which started, I think, about 3 years ago, the bills went up significantly, okay? Significantly is what I can tell you. So I'm talking to my commissioners now, okay, so that you get a clarification on that. You know, for those of you who have been here as long as I have, okay, you'll understand what I'm talking about. So, you know, I just mentioned that in terms of, you know, the way I'm thinking about this. Also, if I do have a thought or a suggestion, okay, because at my front door, okay, and also in my door down by the garage, you can go to any Ace, okay, place, and buy a strip to put at the bottom of your door for $20, okay, which will stop cold air from coming in as you open and close your door. So I'm taking those type of things into consideration, that, you know, there are remedies for some of these things, okay? So I think that to ask this commission to come up with, you know, a ruling of over $13,000 is excessive as far as I'm concerned.
I'm just looking at the nature of the complaint, and it was checked rental increase, which we have documented as $33. I don't see that being harsh and unconscionable. Kind of goes within the percentage.
Right.
And rental unit conditions, and I agree that it was, the photos that were given were not of the unit, so they're just of the outside. So I don't see the concerns with the rental unit, other than the cost of the utilities.
I agree. I mean, part of the charge here is these complaints, just as much as we want concierge or other landlords to come back with their position, they also are entitled to know the position of the complainant, the tenant, so that they can adequately prepare the case. But also, as commissioners here volunteering our time to do what needs to be done, we need to know the scope of the complaint. And it, as Commissioner Bosky points out, the nature of the complaint was the rental increase was $33. I mean, we've heard a lot of other, and whether that was harsh and unconscionable, which I certainly do not find that as harsh and unconscionable. The additional information that we're hearing about wasn't necessarily listed in the complaint, although we did entertain discussion. Even if it was in the complaint, I'm not sure that I would find the ask reasonable under the harsh and unconscionable standards. I know it's frustrating. I know that, but I'm going to have to be cognizant of the fact that signed 2 leases, agreeing to things. And if it's something that you found that it was not desirable, I mean, at least I would move elsewhere or look for other accommodations. I know that can be tough in this day and age, but prices are going up all over the place. But 2-bedroom, 2-bath rental increase, we've seen higher rental increases come before this commission, but for $33, I don't see it. And I don't know that I again award $13,891.50 that ask for, and many of these charges were agreed to over the course of at least 2 leases. So I don't think it meets the standard.
Yeah.
Joe? Okay. So with that, I would entertain a motion. I guess if the commission feels that there's no cause, I would find in favor of that there's no harsh and unconscionable evidence of a harsh and unconscionable rent increase or rental conditions, and find in favor of concierge.
Go ahead, Lori, you make the
I'll
motion.
make a motion that the commission finds that the rent increase is not harsh and unconscionable, and we find in favor of concierge.
I second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Thank you. Do we have the last claim? Or is it still on the line? Or
That's the person that's online.
do you want to table it? Can we take just a 2-minute recess? Okay.
2-minute recess.
Oh, she's on? Okay,
Yeah,
she's ready. Okay, then.
Okay.
All right, well,
I can give you guys 2 minutes. I'm home. No worries.
It's been a long night.
do you want to?
Oh.
Okay, we're going to take.
Yes.
Okay.
We're going to go back on the record. Okay. Next last on the agenda is case number 2023-09, Chastity Rios. Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. I think, do we want to have I don't know if you want the screen down. Does it matter? Okay, well, there we go. We're getting the screen
She
down.
might though, so it's probably a good idea.
What can she?
Ms. Rios, you're appearing remotely, so what I'm going to have you do is, what we've done with the other claimants in here, is we're going to have you sworn in by the attorney for the commission, so.
Can you raise your right hand? All right, and Rios, do you swear or affirm, whatever the case may be, that the information you provide tonight is true?
Yes.
Okay.
I swear.
Ms. Rios, I see in your claim, summary of your claim, that you had a rent increase of approximately $200. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And and that your claim increase, and then most recently, they increased your rent by $200. Was the rent increase just because of a $200 conviction fee that wasn't removed? Or
No,
is
it's a continuous increase. So the eviction that they added was in March due to incompliance of rental insurance. I've had rental insurance prior to even moving into the unit. What happened was they moved us into a unit that we didn't sign off on a contract due to the unit not being ready. So the day of, they moved us into a different property and we signed another form. I updated the insurance on my end and I provided the information, which they said that they didn't receive it because they changed their emails. I still provided the proof. We still got sent an eviction notice along with a $200 charge and $60 in compliance fee. And that was in the month of February going into March.
Okay, so that's a total of $260?
Yes.
Is that something that occurred a second time as well, or is that the only time?
Second time changed. And you can see on the ledger, it fluctuated between 1725 to 1760. The last month was like 1825. So it fluctuated between like $180 to $200.
So you meaning the amount of the fine for not having
Not for just the fine, just rent in general. The fine was removed after a month, I believe. They removed it going into the rolling period for April. It was removed.
Okay. And I would also ask counsel for the commission to correct me, but Ms. Rios, I don't know that with regard to your claims about an eviction fee and not being removed and those charges that relating to it, that's a claim that's properly before the commission, because our commission, again, you may have other rights or remedies under the lease or in housing court, but I don't know that we can, given the fact that we're looking whether rent and the conditions in which you're renting under are harsh and unconscionable, whether I can act or advise this commission to vote on the removal of eviction fees or late charges, the like. It's more has to do with the conditions of
Right,
your
which
tenancy.
I did include in the application for
Okay.
fair rent as well. So it wasn't just the eviction charge that they had to remove because they lacked the responsibility to update their information. It was also just throughout the whole entire year, we had increases because of utility. In the month of February, we didn't have hot water. It was out for about 2 weeks. And the boiler situation was on and off like 3 times that entire month. We still paid their utility bill, but for some reason it just kept carrying on where it was additional, along with our Eversource bill. So it's not just the eviction charge from the rental insurance that they did remove. It's just a rental increase throughout the entire leasing year.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to sort of narrow the scope we're doing, and I didn't want you to be misled. I do say that we can't address the overcharge or issue or the eviction fee or late charges. We won't necessarily be able to consider that in light of the fact that our sort of charge here is to focus on the harsh and unconscionability of your rental increase. So with that being said, your rent increase, what's your rental increase from the last rent that you're seeking relief from?
So we signed off on the leasing contract at 1646. The last payment I made was 1825. And that was in October 18, before our move out date. I had spoken to the manager before November. I signed I had to get out of there, not only because of the rent increase, because of the living condition. I also had mold in my apartment and the kitchen and in the bathroom. So I put a maintenance request back in June. It was dismissed, and I just had to push through those months before I could even sign the release form. So for the month of November, I had spoken with the manager, and I confirmed to have her keep the security deposit as the last month's rent since we moved in the middle of November. Our leasing contract ended November 26th of 2023. So it wasn't prorated on the ledger which I was like confused about when I spoke to her over the phone. I said, just keep the security deposit for the amount that we owe for that prorated amount. It was confirmed. For some reason, that didn't happen, and they're still charging a bill for a unit that I no longer live in.
Okay, so do you live in Century Hills anymore, or Concierge?
No,
Okay, and you
no,
moved,
I absolutely.
and you moved out when?
November 26th was the last day of the lease.
2023?
Yes.
Okay, I have here in my notes, it indicates that there was an increase of rent that occurred on February 1st, 2023, from
Correct.
1646 to 1938.
Yeah, so that was when we had all of the additional fees. That's when I first opened a case with Kelly. So I provided her a screenshot of the breakdown. I guess on their portal, it necessarily wasn't correct. And when I spoke to the leasing manager, she said, go by what you signed off on your contract, which I've done. But it kept carrying over additional amount for the next rolling month's rent. And it just kept going on. So first month's rent we paid was $15.46 for January. Since we paid in our security deposit first month rent, we paid 2 months rent. So our security deposit was $28.96. In January, we paid $15.46. In February, our bill went up $200. And then in March, there was the fee for in-compliance and for the eviction notice because of the in-compliance fee.
When the price, if I could just interject, as you start to see rental increases of varying amounts after February 1st, 2023, that's correct, right? You started to see it varied from month to month, but it was increasing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And during that time, did you pay that increased amount, whatever it may be, from month to month?
I did, not including the eviction fee or the in-compliance fee, because I knew that I wasn't at fault for them not being responsible to transfer it over. So they removed that. However, I did pay the additional $100 and whatever charges they said it was from their utilities bill, but when I would get it in mail, it would be a lot less than what was on the portal. And I still would make that payment because it just kept adding on late fees. Each month, it kept adding on late fees. So I put that extra to cover the amount to just clear it out, and it wouldn't. So it was just weird the way it would break down on their portal. She said there's something that's just not internally right. Just go buy off of your leasing contract. And every time I did, it just looked like we had late fees, and I just didn't feel right. So I paid, on average, $17.50 each month from February forward.
Okay. So the varying amounts, if I understand this correctly, is that after February 1st, 2023, your rent went from $16.46 to the highest amount, which was $19.38, correct? In other
Yes,
words,
but-
it wasn't necessarily static. The whole $19.38 wasn't every single month after that point, right?
Right.
There were
the
some amounts
highest
in
was-
between those numbers.
Yes, and the highest for the last bill was $18.25.
Okay. So the most you've ever been charged between, say, February 1st, 2023 and November 26th, 2023, when you moved out, was $19.38, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But not including I just want to clear it out. I did not pay their additional $260. So if you deduct the $260 from $19.46, then that was the payment I made. I have
That was
a
the-
screenshot of.
Yep, I remember. The $200 eviction fee that you disputed plus the $60 that suddenly appeared on top of it for a total of $260. Got it. Okay. Anybody have any questions? We've read your packet, so I don't want you to think.
Oh yeah, no, I have it all in my archives. I have it all in my notes. I was prepared for this back in November, and now I'm close to my due date, and I couldn't make it in person. So
Not a problem.
I'm prepared.
Okay. Anybody
My
questions?
question is just what is the total amount we're looking at?
Okay, yeah. So I understand that you want what it appears to be a retroactive reduction of your rent. I don't know how much or for how long you want that. I think I understand some of the basis for it, but if you can maybe sum that up for us so we know what we're considering.
Yeah. Right. For the 12-month period, I do want the additional charges back, along with the utility bill that we had to pay for the month that we didn't have it, and the Eversource bill that we had to pay for that month as well.
Okay, I don't know those. I don't know those numbers off the top of my head. So, and I don't know that I can. Yeah.
Yeah. So, for the month of February, the Eversource bill was $250. For their water and storage bill, which we didn't clarify on the leasing contract, it said it would be mailed, went from $37 to $137. I don't know how. They said there was a 77 balance rolled over. I've only lived there for a month from December to January. So that month period, I don't know how their water bill exceeded that high when we didn't even have hot water for a good 2 weeks. So we couldn't even use our water. We actually didn't stay in our apartment. We stayed in my boyfriend's mom's house. The water and the heat wasn't working at all. So we couldn't stay there. He has a daughter. It wasn't right to live in a home that didn't have any heat at all.
Got it.
So I definitely want that reimbursement for the month of February. And I do, as much as I have frustrations for all of the complaints and eviction notices, and I would go in person, I would leave work to meet them in person because they could not pick up my phone call. I had this nasty disputes with the leasing assistant, and her name, I believe, was Melissa. And word for word, and I actually addressed this to Kelly, was, well, if you take us to court, we'll win either way. I had nothing that in conversation that mentioned court. So for her to make that comment made me feel very uncomfortable. And then that's when I proceeded with this case. So I do feel like I would want my 12-month reimbursement for those extra charges.
Okay, so hold that thought. I have the $100 increase for the February 2023 increase in the water bill when you went from 37 to 137.
Yes.
What I'm trying to find out is more simply, I can't parse the record right now and determine what all those charges are. Do you know what those charges were that you feel that you want to recoup retroactively? The total amount.
As for the total amount, I'm looking at like $3,000. I feel like for the security deposit that we put down wasn't worth the experience I had. If I had known the experience that we were going to have throughout that year, being pregnant and the condition that I was living in, I would have had the choice to move out as soon as I could. But I didn't want to break a lease. So I stood there for the 12-month period.
Understood. So, but your total, I mean, I know it's a sort of a ballpark number, and I did some quick math based on some of the averages. It probably comes out around $3,000. I guess what I'm struggling with is I understand that your claims appears to be more of an overcharge rather than harsh and unconscionable conditions. It's not saying that you don't have a claim. I just don't know that claim is something that this commission has the power to adjudicate. You understand? So if there's a breach of a lease which would affect those conditions that I enumerated at the beginning of our hearing tonight, such as conditions, mold, or somebody's increased the rent to twofold. Somebody rent was $2,000 and suddenly overnight it's $4,000, and given it's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath place, you would consider whether that was an harsh and unconscionable rental increase. I think if I'm hearing you correctly, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I'm hearing is that it's more that your claim may have been they've improperly charged you. They had carrying charges month to month at varying degree that you could, through your best attempts, you could not wipe out even if you overpaid those amounts.
Yes, correct.
Okay. I don't know if that falls under the harsh and unconscionable standard, what we're really looking at here. it might, not to say that you don't have a claim, but it might be something that's more proper in another, either in housing court or otherwise, or small claims. But I don't know that that's something that our commission can rule on. And again, I'm not weighing in on the merits of your claim. I'm just, the scope and authority of this commission is limited. So I can't decide all, or we can't decide all claims or controversies, and I just don't know that this may be one of them. I could be wrong. That's just I'm the only one speaking right now. So, but I will. We're certainly going to hear your claim. There's others on this commission that may disagree. So if they have, they may or may not have questions of you. But I know that Concierge's counsel may have questions next. So if you don't have any other evidence or testimony to offer, I can open it up to the rest of the commissioners and ask you some questions. But go ahead, feel free. I mean, I said a lot there, so go ahead.
Yeah. No, and I definitely am understanding. But there were times where I would try to just get this whole situated, from rent increase to our maintenance request, and I couldn't get a hold of them. I also put a maintenance request for mode, and they dismissed it. This was in June. Since June, I have lived in an apartment with mode in the kitchen. I'm cooking in a kitchen with mode, and I'm also showering in a kitchen with mode on above the ceiling. And that's because the ventilation didn't work at all. And I wouldn't have known if I didn't have my dad, who's a maintenance guy, come in and detect everything. He inspected. He even came on my move-out date to look at the mode again, and he just said this was ridiculous for them to dismiss it. And that was June. From June forward, I couldn't get them to take care of the mode situation. I have read articles about closures. My dad had sent me way in advance when I didn't even know there was any issues. And he said, you have to go get a detector just to make sure that, you're good. Came in and he said, yeah, that's definitely mode. They said, no, that's dust. I know the difference between dust and mode. I can clean off dust easily. So as far as the rent increase, I know I'm also looking at health, like safe risk, especially being pregnant for the past 7 months living there. So, you're open to hearing that as well. I understand there's a lot of cases that it's going through the same thing as me.
And I understand that. That's helpful because those are some additional considerations that, of course, that our commission can and will look at. Anything, commissioners, any questions of the witness? Anyone? Okay, hearing none. At this point, still stay on. We are going to have Concierge Counsel is coming up to the microphone right now and may have some questions of you. Okay? You need to identify yourself for the record.
Ryan Hoyler,
Yes.
Ryan Hoyler, Robinson and Cole for Concierge. First, Ms. Rios, thank you very much for being here tonight. I understand you are pregnant, and I do appreciate your time here tonight. So thank you. With respect to the mold, you said your dad had it tested. Did you provide any testing reports to the commission?
No, because when I called back, he said we went in person and I spoke. The maintenance on site, because we had 2 requests open that same period, one for pest and one for mold. The pest was taken care of, but it's still cured. So when they came back, I said, hey, what about the mold you guys closed? Oh, I spoke with my manager over the phone, and he said that's not mold, that's dust. I don't know how that was able to be passed over the phone if your manager is not in person to look at it. My dad came in, he looked at it in person. He told me to order something that I didn't feel like I had to put my money's worth into. So he brought, and he said, yeah, that's mold. I didn't take any pictures or evidence. I didn't think I need to because the mold is still visible on the pictures from that very on day, from it was June 26th. Up until 11/26 when he came back, I took pictures of it and it was just worse. So I don't have the actual proof of evidence, but I have pictures evidence, and I shared it with Kelly as well.
But you didn't have any testing done to confirm that it actually was mold, correct?
Not by the property, not by Concierge. They just dismissed it. They just came in and looked at it and left.
But just to confirm then, you didn't separately have any testing done to confirm it was mold, correct?
My dad just came in person and looked at it.
Okay. And the allegation of mold, it's the pictures of the brick, correct, that you've submitted?
And yes, and the bathroom and the second bathroom, inside the shower, there's a ceiling with mold all around. And there was there's switches, but there's no ventilation. So there's nothing really working,
Did you
circulating at all.
So I don't even want to cut you off there. Did you submit any pictures of the bathroom?
I did.
Okay.
It was last week.
It was the ones you sent last week. Okay. Okay. And then these ones here in the kitchen, this is right next to your stove, correct?
Yes.
From how I understand
Stove
it.
and cabinet. So it's like, it starts from like the ceiling down to where the stove is and like just all across. Like, but mostly where like the corner where the stove is.
So in the corner, essentially where the stove is, kind of next to.
The ceiling above. It starts from more above and then it comes down to where the stove top is. Like, just all splattered everywhere.
And it's in that area where the stovetop is, correct? Like next to
That area-
the stoves.
That area and on the left side of it as well where the cabinet is. That's when I thought about it. I'm like, this isn't dust. I can't clean this off. I shouldn't have to touch it because I'm risking my pregnancy. And I also am asthmatic, so it's triggering my asthma. It was just, it's not something that I knew I could easily clean off. If it was dust, I could just wipe it off and it wouldn't be there. I tried to use vinegar with hot water. Nothing worked. So I knew it wasn't dust. And for a maintenance guy to come in, who, for some reason, you shouldn't have to have your manager approve over the phone. I think that was just dismissed. It wasn't even taken care of.
Attorney Horlier, if I could just jump in a question. I have, Ms. Rios, I have your photos that you submitted shortly before this hearing, like the last week or the week before. I'm looking at two bathroom photos, and it looks like the back wall. Actually, these might be two different bathrooms. What is the black
So
sort of area?
that was a maintenance request that I put in the beginning of November. There were basically like tiles that started like breaking through, and the whole wood just chipped. It just came off when I was showering one day. It took them 3 weeks to come in and not finish the job. They said they would come in the next week, which was the week that I was moving out, to finish it. They just covered it with black tape.
Okay. So this was the last month that you were at the concierge?
Yes.
These two photos, are they of the same bathroom?
Yes.
Okay. How many showers do you have in that unit?
There were 2 showers.
Okay.
And for the first shower, the shower head really didn't spur out any water, which we didn't use. It was for my stepdaughter, who's 5 years old, so it was a safer bathroom for her, and she used that bathroom.
Got it. Okay.
Are you done?
Yes, I'm done. Go ahead.
You'd also mentioned electrical costs, and you'd mentioned, I think, something about heat during your testimony. Can you explain that a little bit more?
We didn't have any, so the boiler, they had to replace the boiler in the month of February. It went from like the last week of January going into the first week of February. Then the water worked for like 2 days and it stopped working completely. But it wasn't just the hot water, it was also our heat in our building, in our unit. I couldn't fill the heat. And I'm not sure if it's because the water wasn't working, so it made our entire apartment, like when we would wash our hands, everything was just so cold. So we didn't stay there for that whole entire week. We got another email saying that they were going to work on it. Something with the boiler didn't come in on time, so buildings, which was our building B and A, was just out of hot water for 2 weeks. And they were completely sorry for the inconvenience. I don't think it's inconvenience. I think it's just unsafe. You shouldn't have to live in a condition with no heat and hot water in the coldest month of the winter. So we didn't stay there for like 4 days. We stood in his mom's house to shower and to live comfortably and warm.
And just to clarify then, we submitted to the commission, I don't know if you have a copy of it or not, a copy of your maintenance request record. Did you ever notify maintenance that you had no heat?
Yes, I called them. I put in an email actually, which is what they suggested that we do, because they were doing like hotels for that period, but they never returned my call or email. So I definitely submitted an email through the portal, a maintenance request, but they said that it was just not our unit, it was the entire building. So I've tried everything. I called them, I went in person, they said, you know, you're not the only person, we're getting calls. They even shut down their phone for that period, so we couldn't get a hold of them. And I understand from the volume of the people experiencing it, but I just feel like it's not safe, and it's aggravating. You know, you're paying more than the rent that you expected, that you signed off on. For the first 2 months that I experienced living there was just terrible.
And I just want to clarify then, your position is that you did put a maintenance request in through the portal, that you had no heat for that period?
Yes.
Okay.
I sent an email to their property as well. And I also got a hold of their residential property in California and had to wait for them to open to speak to them.
I have no further questions. I would like to do a summation of them, if that's
Okay,
okay when we're done here.
Ms. Rios, I've been advised by counsel for concierge, they have no further questions. And in addition to that, at this point, they have no witnesses, so they're going to present summation, or essentially is just argument. It's not necessarily we're not going to take it as testimony, as evidence, but sort of summing up their defense and their position in this claim, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Just to start with, the commission's been provided a copy of the ledger. The ledger provides and explains all of the different payments that were and were not made, and all of the various charges that were made. I understand the commission has some questions about whether or not it can even hear these things. I believe that these are really kind of contract claim issues. That's our position here tonight, but just to clarify for the commission's sake, essentially what happened was that there were some late charges that were added due to not having insurance. Those were removed, as you can see from the ledger. They were taken off. But it looks like some portion of the utility bill or some other portion was not paid at some month, and then it kept recurring new charges month by month after that. And you can see it very clearly here from the ledger. What was paid, what wasn't paid, and then how charges were kind of incurred starting in January of 2023 that ultimately were not paid. So I think that very much explains what the various different charges on a monthly basis were.
What about the eviction?
I think eviction fees were charged at 2 points due to late payment and the non-incurring of rent, or the non-compliance for insurance. While the non-compliance for insurance charges were removed, the eviction charges stayed. Our position is that, and there's nothing in the record to indicate that the proof of insurance was provided anytime prior to March of 2023. That's when the emails in the packet show. So anything prior to that, those eviction charges, as a result of the non-compliance, stayed on the ledger.
Is a conviction charge, is that something because they've engaged counsel, they've actually begun to proceed with eviction?
It's part of the lease that states that you will be charged this if we have to start proceeding with these things. Whether or not we actually engage counsel or not, I don't know at the time, but it's part of the lease.
Part of the lease that the charge will come due if you proceed with eviction, regardless whether you're engaging counsel. Do you know if concierge proceeded with the eviction at that point?
The charge comes due under the lease when non-compliance happens. Whether or not concierge intends to move forward with eviction or not is up to concierge on a case-by-case basis. But the charge incurs under the lease when there is non-compliance with the lease.
Okay. Ms. Rios, do you have any? I'm sorry.
I just was going to get into something else, but if she has comments about that, then.
I did provide proof of evidence and emails, And when I went into the leasing office in person, they said it's because they changed their email address. That was never provided in the emails that they send out. I would have not known, and I sent proof of when I did send that email in the beginning, and that was before they charged the incompliance fee and the eviction notice. So I have that proof. I don't know where on their end they didn't have the proof that I sent to the correct email, because I did also send that, and that's why they dropped the eviction fee, because it was on their end where they should have provided the new email addresses. If you're changing your email address and we can't get a hold of you over the phone, then how would I know? You know, I have to leave work to be able to meet them in person before the leasing office closed to handle any matter situation when I've gone through multiple. And as far as the second eviction notice, it was because we were locked out of our portal. We tried making 3 attempts. My boyfriend has a credit union that had a limit that he couldn't exceed. When I tried the second time, I entered the wrong zip code or something. It just didn't work. We were locked out for 24 hours. I went in person and I said, what can we do to avoid the late charges? Oh, you can pay with a money order. I was told when I moved in, we couldn't pay with money order. We had to pay by check. So it was a lot of things that I just felt like I went in person to try to handle, and it was poor management that I couldn't even get the correct answer out of them or just any type of assistance or anything to avoid any late fees. And did I pay it? Yes. The last month I paid $18.25. If that included the rollover utility fees, that should have been squared out. When you go back into the portal, it still shows a balance, and not just for utilities, for rent, for anything. It just didn't have the correct amount broken down.
Okay.
It's not anyone's fault who rents there. How would we know what we owe if it's not correctly inputted on the portal?
Understood. Okay.
Again,
Attorney Hoyler?
it's our position that these are not things within the commission's purview, but to the extent that we're just trying to clear this up because it is an issue that's been
Right.
brought up here tonight. To the extent there's still a balance, it's because according to this record, no payment was made for rent in November. Again, that's what the record shows, and again, you know, it shows very clearly what payments were made when, why things were charged where, and what the various payments and charges were. So I really, with the ledger, I don't think there's any confusion as to what was charged and when.
Well, yeah, I think the confusion and disconnect is the fact that when you try to get a hold of the property manager, there's no way that you can. So a lot of the things are said in person when you don't have proof of evidence, or over the phone when you finally get a hold of them. And I did confirm for them to keep the security deposit. And when I got a call, I want to say sometime in December, not from anyone in the leasing department, from the property itself saying, we're missing a payment. I said, yes, and it was confirmed with the manager to keep the last month's rent as a security deposit. The security deposit as the last month's rent. We don't have proof that you have a security deposit. I have a check in front of me that I signed on it was November 28th, 2022, of the amount $28.96. I sent that proof, and we still haven't gotten anything cleared with them.
No, and I appreciate, Ms. Rios, I understand your frustration with it. And with that, I mean, Attorney Hoyler, do you have anything else?
Yeah, I mean, as to the other issues, with respect to the heat, if you go through the maintenance requests, it's very clear that there was a maintenance request about no hot water. There is no maintenance request about not having heat anywhere in the maintenance record. Again, very clear from the maintenance record that there was no indication that there was no heat. The commission has seen evidence in the past of the boiler did break. We acknowledge that the boiler broke. We had to go out and find a new boiler. It cost us $90,000 to ship a boiler up from Louisiana. The commission has seen this evidence before. We acknowledge that there were times in the winter of 2023 when the boiler was out. we did everything we could to fix it and replace it. And then finally, with respect to the mold issues, again, there's no evidence before the commission that there actually was any mold in the apartment. An inspection was done by the maintenance person. It's in the record, and the tenant has testified to it. The tenant doesn't like the result of that inspection that was done by the maintenance person, but the maintenance person did go out, looked at the apartment. It's in the maintenance records, determined that it was not mold. And again, there's no indication before this commission that there actually is any mold in the apartment as far as testing goes. So that is, that's it.
Okay, at this point, we're going to close the evidence portion of the hearing. So with that said, we're going to now deliberate among the commissioners openly with regard to the claims.
One thing is just make sure she doesn't have any
sorry.
comments for the last things that Attorney
Yes,
Wheeler said.
Ms. Rios, do you have any comments or before we close the evidence portion?
Sure, I do. I certainly sent an email in February about the water. I have proof of that. I can look into my emails and bring up that evidence. That I didn't think, when I went in to go look, because Kelly asked me for a proof of all my maintenance requests, the mold was actually removed. I don't know how, because I don't have access to do any of that. So if there's anything that's sent in emails, they should have all of that evidence in their system. I don't understand how they didn't receive the email in February. I made sure of it. I called them. I called so many times because I could not take a shower. And that's the most important thing that I care about, is when I'm paying for hot water, is to be able to shower. So the fact that they're saying they didn't get any evidence, I'm pretty sure people, not just myself, has tried to reach out to them and they couldn't get a hold. And I sent an email, and I also sent an email to their property manager from what the lady told me to do. She said you could even request to get a hotel. I didn't want to do that. I stood with family.
Okay.
Sorry.
So I just want to make that clear. And as far as the mold, it was dismissed, and it's mold. You know, there's pictures. If I don't know how it's not. I don't know. I'm beyond. I even tried cleaning it myself. If it was not mold, then what is it? You know, I don't understand.
Just to clarify for the record, the mold request is in the maintenance packet that you received, and there was a request about no hot water in February. There was no request about heat in February. So, thank you.
Okay. Well, okay.
Okay. All right. All right, Ms. Rios, we're going to turn to we're closing the evidence portion of the hearing, go to the deliberation process. So with that said, Council, we have,
I was going to jump, you suggested during the course of the hearing for me to jump in if I disagreed with you.
Okay,
But at this
go ahead.
point, I don't disagree with you. I just figured I'd put it on the record that items like disputes about the payments that are made, late charges, things of that, I mean, those are really the substance of housing court or small claims court or perhaps a superior court action. But this body isn't charged with, as you were suggesting earlier, Mr. Chairman, with deciding whether, you know, they mistakenly charged her an eviction fee or mistakenly charged something else under the lease. What you are entitled to do is to determine whether the amount that they were charging her, because I don't think this is a rent increase case. There's only one lease that was signed for 1646, so the actual lease agreement, I don't think was changed, but it's for you to decide. But from what I saw from the evidence, so it was whether that's harsh and unconscionable, and whether any of the evidence like outages in heat and things like that. You can rely on testimony. There's a factual dispute about the fact that she didn't put her claim in, but there's also, I think, acknowledgement on the part of counsel for concierge that there was a period of time in February of 2023 where there was a lack of heat, and whether or not you think there's an adjustment that should be made for that or any of the other conditions. But the various ups and downs that happen on that ledger appear to me, as it did to you, to be related to the details of the lease as opposed to a rental increase. And I think only the rental increase would be what you would be charged with deciding.
okay. And I appreciate that. Thank you. I always like it when somebody agrees with me. No. But no, with respect to, in all seriousness, the charges, I feel for you, Ms. Rios, and your claim, the frustration you may have with regard to this in terms of the conditions or the charges. But again, not to speak to the merit of that, but I do think it's outside the purview of our commission and what we're tasked to do. It's not to say that you don't have that claim, that you could present perhaps contractually based claim with small claims or housing court. It's just not something we could do with respect to that. So our focus more may be on the conditions. And as we heard and do recognize, there, I think if I could distill it to one area of testimony that I've gotten from both sides as well as the packet, that issue that did happen in February, I do hear you in terms of the loss of heat in February 2023 and how that has affected not only you but other unit owners. And I think, as four concierge pointed out, there's already testimony in prior hearings of their attempts to fix it and the costs associated with that. And as I said in other hearings, I'll say today, while I understand that the boiler cost money, I also understand that tenants paid their full amount of rent. And some tenants, such as yourself, may not have been receiving what they contractually or contracted for, and that of course would be heat and hot water. In this case, it does not appear that there was a heat issue, but there's certainly a hot water issue that I don't think is in dispute here from both sides, and whether that affected her claim if at all. But again, I guess sort of my initial thoughts, just to sum up again, is I don't believe we can decide the issues of overcharges, and because I think those are contractually based claims that probably more proper before small claims or housing court. However, the only thing that I think we should or could consider would be the loss of hot water during the time that the boiler was out, which I don't think is in dispute. Those are my thoughts.
Okay, refresh my memory. How many days was the boiler? I know.
It was out 2, 3.
No, I think it was out longer than that.
Yeah, I think I'd heard something about 3 weeks,
About
4
3
weeks.
Yeah, it was approximately 3 weeks.
Yeah, I know this is awkward, you can't see us, but we're not taking any other testimony. This is sort of a discussion amongst the counselors, so sorry. Or commissioners, go ahead. So I think, Marty, that would be about 3 weeks.
Be out 3 weeks. Well, I think that we should focus our thought process on what do we feel is fair in terms of 3 weeks financially. Open to.
I don't know if that's something that we can really determine. I mean, we're looking at the rent increase, again, is similar to the complaint. The rent increase was not an issue because it's something we can't control with the
charges.
The charges, right,
It wasn't really any
right,
rent
right.
increase. It was more about
Charges.
It was more about the 1635, irrespective of overcharges.
I think that what we should be looking at right now is, I understand that, things happen, okay? Things break down, okay? And it may have taken longer than anticipated because of the age of the building and the only people that was still making that particular whatever it was, okay, the boiler, had to be made by just one person, one shop down in New Orleans, if I'm not mistaken, as I remember from the last time we heard this. I think that we should be looking at what she paid for in terms of rent for that particular month and come up with what we think is a fair.
1635. We're not considering the overcharges, so 1635.
1635. I think it might be fair
Was her
for us
rent?
to. Yeah. to prorate,
1646.
you know.
1646.
Understanding that,
I'm sorry, 1646, yeah.
1646, understanding that, you know, things break down, okay? You know, no matter where you live, if you live in a house, an apartment, or a teepee, or a hut or something, okay? Yes, I've lived in a yurt. But I think we should come up with a financial amount as a portion of the rent
So,
that we can all live
How many
with,
days?
that we can all live with, so. If it was out for 3 weeks, that's a 742, 21 days. I would say that maybe 14 days. As a prorate of the rent.
Of the rent?
You with calculator.
So it's 28, month of February had 28 days, so this should be pretty easy if you say 14 days.
Does
So that's
that seem fair?
So it's exactly one half, $823 would be the amount, if you were gonna go with that amount.
How much did you say?
$823.
I mean, does anybody feel that maybe we should be considering lesser days? I don't know, I just, you know, that's just me, my thought process, okay? Okay, Jen?
And one thing, if I could, is in these instances where you've had a variety of evidence, you've had other evidence of part of the, you know, part of the bathroom was falling in and some other things, that the dialogue about how you come to the conclusion about this water in the 14 days and 823 is a good dialogue to have. But ultimately, make the motion, I would suggest that on the totality of the evidence, that the amount of rent that was charged was unconscionably harsh by the amount of X. So it's just a minor suggestion just before you do the motion, so that it doesn't necessarily be entirely tied to February.
Understood. So, yeah, I mean, it's more of a guiding principle, but you're not locked into a pro rata adjustment of exactly half the rent for 14 days, because there's issues with the calculation. But I mean, if we can think of a number that would reflect the harsh, whether in fact it was harsh and unconscionable, worth a retroactive reduction of that amount.
Okay, and you know, my fault, I was not thinking
No,
in
that's fine.
terms of February and being 28 days, okay? I was thinking in terms of the
30-day
number
month.
of weeks, so to speak.
You think so? I mean, are you looking at 500, 600, 800?
I'm thinking 500.
500?
Yeah, I think that's
I think
reasonable.
we can all agree on 500.
Okay, if you want to make a motion, we'll see if, we thought. So based on, I guess, whoever want to make it.
Based on the totality of the evidence presented before us, the council would make an adjustment of $500
Retroactively?
retroactively for that one time in February of 2023.
Okay. Yes. Commissioner Finnegan seconded, okay? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it, it's unanimous. With respect to the ordering of the payment of it, since this tenant is no longer in concierge and is living elsewhere, I would make a motion to direct concierge to remit payment within 30 days of receipt or written notification of this commission's decision to remit payment to the finance director for the town of Rocky Hill for that amount, $500, in such time that the finance director can then get in touch with Ms. Rios and provide her with that amount of money. Do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner Stiglich. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so the ayes have it, unanimous. Okay, with that, do I entertain a motion? Do I think that's all we have on the agenda?
Entertain a motion to adjourn?
Okay, motion to adjourn.
I second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you very much.